You're watching the Action Sports Jax. You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
We're just going to talk over this streaming. There we go. Okay. Hey, we figured this could be a little bit of a challenge and a fun one, and off to a good start on it as we try to go from London to Las Vegas with Jacksonville in between. The Jaguars landing about 11:30 or so London time. Jacksonville time after they left about 10:30. So a long trip across the pond, but looks, as you can see, a beautiful day here in London, England. I'm not sure we're going to get these kind of days for the rest of this stay, but so far so good as we have made it to basically the headquarters. Another different kind of experience for the Jaguars on this trip because they get to stay in the same hotel for the entire 10 days. Last year, they shifted hotels during the two-game period, but this one they're going to stay in the same place. So this is home for the next 9 or 10 days now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, I think we got this thing cooking now. A lot of we knew this would be a challenge. Now this is the hotel edition of the Brent Austen Show from London, where it's 3 o'clock. By the way, I've been doing this a long time. I don't think I've ever done this. 3 o'clock here in London. It is 7 o'clock in Las Vegas for Austen Lane. And I think he can hear me. So what the hell? Let's try it. What's happening, Austen Lane?
Nothing too much, man. Just, another day to get better with training and everything. I'm really curious about what you got going on over there because it looks like you're in an apartment and not in a hotel room compared to, where I'm staying at the Palms here. Brent, what would you say the biggest differences in terms of hotels or motels, wherever you're staying, are in the UK compared, to the US?
Yeah, well, obviously the plugs, you got to bring the different ones, right? The extension. So that's the big thing. But that's just the way it goes for everything. I would say this, Austin, it's interesting you ask me that question. For one, like the beds are small, like shorter. That doesn't impact me, but I think it would impact you if the bed is shorter. So for some of these players, I don't know if they got the extra large bed, but mine is definitely not the extra large bed and doesn't need to be in terms of length. Width, okay, length, not so much. And then the other thing I've noticed about just being here in England now, I don't even know. I have no idea how many times I've been over here now, but a lot, is all the doorways are so much smaller here. Maybe not to get into my hotel room, but even that might be a little bit smaller. But just like going into the bathroom, there's a little balcony right here going out to that. Just in general, a lot of the doorways are smaller. I don't know if we just make chubbier people in the United States or what, but that's the big difference for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably got something to do with it.
So anyway, we got a beautiful day here. This is a fantastic place. I wish if you're on vacation, this would be a good place to be. But Jags are not on vacation. Jags are trying to get a couple wins. You're not on vacation either. You're trying to get a big win next week. So, hey, it's a big 10 days for everybody that follows us, follows you, follows the Jaguars. And it's on, man. I mean, Jaguars now all business. They've done this before. I'll tell you this one, I always take you inside the locker room and give you the mentality of the Jags, how it's a vibe. Or I'll tell you about this trip. You have two ways to look at this trip. You can embrace it or you can complain about it. And I just like being around this football team they kind of like it. Like it's even bigger than an embrace. They had a lot of young guys on this team, some making their first trip over. The other ones that have played over here now, Austin, have had a pretty good experience, right? Won a couple of games last year. And Trevor Lawrence, I think, is 3-1 now in his time here in London. So I think these guys embrace this trip, not like, hey, get us out of Jacksonville because we got to try to figure this out like last year was, where they kind of found themselves in that 10 days. But I think they don't mind being here. I wonder if the Chicago Bears are feeling the same way, because it felt like Buffalo Bills didn't feel the same way last year, right, in that second game, and the Jaguars were able to take it to them.
Yeah, I mean, it always reminded me, because I've never been in I've never had the UK experience. I was gone before that took part. But, there was my rookie year with Jack Del Rio. He didn't believe in like staying a couple of days like on the West Coast. Like we would fly over literally like that day, like on Saturday, and then play on Sunday. And I think my rookie year we got kind of crushed by the Chargers, so he changed it up a little bit. And then I think we had like a West Coast trip where it was maybe we played Oakland and then the Chargers again or something. But like I remember we were on the West Coast for a little bit, so we were there for about a week, and it's more of like it's like a team bonding thing, right? Because you're not with your families, you're not with your significant others, you're with your teammates, So like the defensive line, for instance, we hung out a lot. We kind of ventured around the city a little bit and just kind of checked some things out. So to me, this London trip, especially when you have you have younger players, you have players that have been free agent acquisitions who have just got to the team as well. I think it's a great chance to try to build some more camaraderie, build a rapport, and stay in London for a couple of weeks. So I'm not opposed to the trip. Obviously, Jaguars fans have something to say about it because you are sacrificing a home game and everything. But I think from a team dynamic, it can only bring it closer together. If you win, now, if you lose and then all of a sudden it goes downhill, then it could be a nightmare. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that. Right? Obviously, hopefully we don't get to experience it. But I've told you, I thought it was a big deal they won last year to be able to. First of all, they were 1-2. It's a little different feeling because the Jags are coming off a win. But let's not misplace. There's a lot of disappointment at 1-4. I mean, one win does not replace 0-4. The Jaguars are still in a very difficult spot from where they want to be. So this isn't like, hey, all right, great, we're right on track. But last year, remember, they were off track. They had gotten hammered. And that surprised us that they got hammered by Houston, and they went to 1-2, and they kind of found this. And I've said this multiple times this week. I said it a lot last year. They won that first game, and that kind of made the trip, right? Because it was a new experience. Well, this isn't necessarily a new experience for a lot of the players on this team. I wonder if they were to lose, and hopefully that's not the case, but does it actually help them again? Because 1-5 back in Jacksonville, back in the States with all the noise, maybe this would be okay to be back here, amongst yourself, continue to dig out of your hole together with a lot less attention and everything else. We'll see if that happens. Hopefully we don't have to, because really the Jaguars need to try to find a couple wins here. That's the bottom line, Austin. This season can really, for a second year in a row, get on track here in October in London over like a 10-day span. If they win 2 games, 3-4, after what they started with, even schedule-wise, and then how it turned out for them in the first month, really would not be bad. Now, we'd have to really have some things happen over the next 4 weeks against some really tough opponents, but we'll get there when we get there. To get 3-4 would really put you back in the race in some respects, considering the AFC right now is so wide open.
Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy how, we always seem to have the narrative that this is the biggest week in Jaguars history, like this is the biggest week in franchise history. But it really does seem like this could be the biggest, I guess we can say, road trip, UK trip in Jaguars history, because this to me right here, it could make or break your season. And listen, I don't know what the playoff odds are of the Jaguars even being in the playoffs still. Obviously, Houston, that they're a couple games ahead right now. Yeah, Nico Collins is hurt and everything, but we'll see what happens there. We're just kind of focused, I feel like, on the Jaguars right now, as we should be. So I'm not sure what the playoff chances are per se, but if you can somehow manage to come back to Jacksonville being 3-4, getting close to that 500 mark, then you have something special there. And I get, like, there's really no easy games, right? Like, we can say the Patriots, they're a team that, they're kind of on the bottom of the league, it seems like, starting, I think, a rookie quarterback now. So we'll see how he does. Probably some pressure on him. I get all of that. But what we've seen in the NFL, Brent, is week in and week out, games have been competitive. A lot of things don't make sense. Talking to you, Sam Darnold, the Minnesota Vikings, like there's a lot of examples here where week in, week out, you got to play a good brand of football because you can get beat.
Yeah, I mean, that's the case. Like, I mean, listen, even if you, it's funny you say Houston, because Houston has the New England this week with May starting for the first time. I mean, Houston's going to win that football game, I would suspect, right? I think the Jags really should beat New England next week. So Houston is so far down the road now. Like, they have put themselves in such a good position. The Jags have really hurt themselves in any chance at a division unless we see a collapse. Jags, I think, even to make the playoffs, forget about even win the division or have a chance, just a chance to dance a little bit here. They have to go like 5-1 in the division now, I think, because they're so far behind Houston. I think you have to hope that some of the teams in the division beat Houston and the Jaguars, but again, it's getting way, way ahead. I think what's interesting, what you just said, is here we go again, where the Jags are in like this biggest week of the year thing again, right? Like it really does. I've never really, maybe I have thought about this, but not recently. Like, I don't think about it in that context of how many times have we said that, like, especially early in the season, September, October-ish, where we're like, my goodness, this is it. If you don't change it, if you don't fix it, it's going to be a long November and a long December. And remember, this is so weird, Austen, because it wasn't supposed to be this way, right? We were supposed to be able to get the December in the mix, no problem, this year. But I think you're right. This is a massive 2-week swing once again in London. And I mean, do you feel like they have to sweep it? I mean, do these games almost feel playoff games and must-win games given their schedule and where they're at right now and the hole they are in?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we were all on the same page when the season started. And I think I speak for most of the fan base here, where the goal was to go to the playoffs. And I think if you look right now, Brent, if you lose to the Bears, that's going to put you at, 1-5? Yeah, I think your chances of going to the playoffs are done. Like, once again, I don't know the analytics. I don't know like what the percentages say of when a team goes 1-5. Has it ever been done?
Not good.
Whatever the case may be, it's not good. So yeah, I mean, once again, here we are saying this could be the biggest game of the season and it's crazy that we're in week 6 right now talking about this, but your chance to go to the playoffs maybe relies on you beating the Chicago Bears. And if you don't, it could be done. So yeah, here we are again, whether it's the Colts game, whether it's the Texans game from a couple weeks ago, whether now it's the Bears game, most important game of the year.
Yeah, it seems like the most important game of the year, because I think a lot of us feel like they are a better team than New England and should be able to get that game. And again, we'll ride that momentum a little bit if they get. Here's the deal, Austen. Here's how big I think this Chicago game is. I think I feel like I've told you this even before they beat Indianapolis. And this is why I said to you so many times in the last few weeks, even when they were going to play Houston and they were 0-3, I said, stay in the fight. Just stay in the fight. Like, this is a good enough football team where if they find their way a little bit, if they get hot, Doug's shown that he can get hot a little bit with this group especially, but even in Philadelphia, if they can just stay in the fight. Like, and my view on that is if they go to 3-4, I think they're going to surprise some people in that next month of the season with Green Bay, Minnesota, the Eagles, and the Lions. And I'm not sitting here even telling you they're going to go 3-1 against that group. But even 2-2 in that 4 would be pretty good, where 3 weeks ago, nobody would say that as you're sitting at 0-3, right? So I think if you start doing some of the math, right, and you go 3-4 because you come back home with 2 wins, and then you can get 2 out of 2-2 over the next month, well, now you're looking at, what would that be, 5-6? And then you got to make a stretch run. But the stretch run is actually a lot loosened up. It's division opponents, and it's teams that you can probably get more than that tough schedule part where you come home and play a lot of those AFC North teams. So, again, I'm getting way ahead. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. Like, where do the chances get? And I'm actually very confident that if they can win this Chicago game, they're going to get themselves in the fight. Now, I've also said, I think we're going to come back to those first 3 weeks of the year specifically, and maybe the first 4, and say, damn it, you missed your chance, right? And it's going to be annoying as hell. But let's get to the first part first and at least give yourself a chance in November and December to stay in the fight, hope somebody else collapses. We've seen it now 2 consecutive years in the AFC South. Maybe Houston's next, right? Tennessee collapsed, the Jags collapsed. Maybe we're all just taking turns in the AFC South and somehow Houston collapses. So you got to stay in the fight, man. Like, that's the big thing right here in Jacksonville for me. And it starts with Chicago. This is a big game because I think it's a dangerous game. I don't think they're great. I think they're good enough to win, but I think the Jags are still better. They just got to go play like they're better.
Well, no, this is the thing, and we talked about this before. When this was on the calendar, at least from my perspective, you know, I circled this as a pretty easy win because, you know, while I like what they did with Caleb Williams and building around him, I was still thinking, okay, this is still a rookie quarterback. He's still going to have some bumps and bruises. We're still going to get him pretty early on in the season. I don't see him hitting the ground running. So I thought it was going to be a pretty easy dub for the Jaguars. And, like, my thoughts on the Bears, you know, like, had they been skewed, like, is Caleb Williams playing better than I thought he was? Like, I think he's kind of what we expected him to be. And I think this Bears team, and they've had some injuries on offense. And guess what? What NFL team hasn't had injuries, right? So that they've had some injuries. You know, I didn't expect the run game to be kind of stagnant like it was for the first couple of weeks with Swift, but now he's kind of coming on a little bit. The Bears are kind of where I thought they would be. The Jaguars aren't, obviously. You know, we didn't expect for them to come out the gates and stumble like they have. So it kind of changes your whole perception of this game because, you know, I was under the influence of, okay, the Jaguars could probably be 500, you know, looking good. Identity's all there. All right, well, they had a rebound against Indianapolis, but we haven't seen it in consecutive weeks yet. Right, and that's going to be the next step now. Like, was that Indy game just a one-off? Was it lucky? Was it because Trevor Lawrence's birthday? All this stuff. Now we get to see it again against Chicago in the kind of a neutral, you know, field, if you will. I mean, obviously the Jaguars have the advantage because they play there every single year, but it's still more of a neutral field. So I'm very curious to see now if they can string it together because that's going to be the telling thing as well, Brent. Right, like good teams can take that momentum regardless of where you play and keep it going. Right. And that's what Doug Peterson has to do now. And I understand, like, the defense is still going to have some holes in it. You know, Ryan Nielsen's got to have the bend, don't break type of demeanor. But this game all comes down to the offense, you know, and Trevor Lawrence. So we're about to find out with this identity, Brent, because we had Clay Harbor on. We talked about it a little bit. This Bears secondary is going to challenge you. Right. So one would think the run game is going to be a little more prevalent. Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne, and everything, but how far is that going to get you? I think it's going to have to come down to some Trevor Lawrence as well, hopefully some Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk and company to get that offense going, because if you don't, I feel like the Bears are explosive enough to make this a high-scoring game as well.
Yeah, so much into this game. It got me thinking, and, you know, you're right about a lot of it. I think the Jags actually have more momentum in spots than their record shows. I think if you start looking around the league, we did this the other day, right? We're like top 10, top 6, Brian Thomas Jr., Trayvon Walker. You know, Trevor's numbers now don't even look that displaced from a guy like Patrick Mahomes. The Bigsby numbers are really strong. The offensive line is like, they have a lot of good stories like going on, these small little stories that just don't look like it's 1-4. I mean, we haven't had these kind of stories at times in Jacksonville, even when they've had a better start or a better record. So I just think that evens itself out and usually bubbles up. And that's why I think the Jags will catch a little bit of this, you know, favorable wind, if you will, right now. The other thing is they're getting healthy. Chicago's a little bit banged up even on that defensive side, Austin, but the Jags are getting healthier and healthier if they can put themselves in a little bit of a position over the next couple of weeks. Tayshaun Gibson made the trip here, Tyson Campbell, of course, so Dewey Wingard on the trip. So hopefully the Jags can, Evan Ingram should play this week, of course. So there's a lot going in the right direction, but you still have to be able to get the wins. A couple of things on the chat. I just want to, Luke brought up a good point. Remember, I just said, we'll get to Delphonic in a minute, but Luke brought up that I said, who was it last year? Jags collapsed, Tennessee collapsed. Before that, he's right, Indianapolis collapsed because Trevor and the Jags beat them in the final week of the season to knock them out of the playoffs. And remember, the Jags were terrible that year. in the 2021 season. So, yeah, everybody's it's Houston's turn. So it would be nice in a 4-year run if they were able to collapse. The other thing that I wanted to, Steve Boston mentioned, hey, do you think Doug and the Jags should have got out of Jacksonville early? And I don't understand, Austin. I don't know if you saw this. It had become a little bit of a story on social media. And because the Jags, we left about 4 or 5 hours later because of the storm and just some things. And by the way, like, I don't understand the criticism of that. Like, people are like, well, why didn't you leave on Tuesday? You knew a hurricane was coming. That would have upset everybody's schedules way more. And plus, there's a lot of logistics that go into this. But Tuesday's the day off. They're getting their families ready and everybody else for potentially a hurricane. We knew by Thursday evening the thing would be out of here. Like, that was forecasted to be the case. No problem. We knew airports would be open. I can tell you this because I know the Jags speak to Mike Burrish quite a bit on these kind of logistical things. But let me tell you why I think this worked out really well for the Jags, because we left at like 10:30 last night. Okay. And the one thing the reason why you leave on Thursday nights, the Jags have been doing this for a long time and they've done it a bunch of different ways. But the reason why they leave on Thursday night is they want you to sleep. And so when you arrive here, it's like, 11:30 London time. But it's like you're kind of you get to that clock a little easier, essentially. Sure. Well, the problem when you leave at 5:30 in the evening is it's hard to go to bed. Like, it's hard to sleep that early, right? So when they left at 10:30, like, even I was able to sleep, and I stay up late, So, like, I think it actually worked out for the Jags I bet they will find out that they got more rest on this flight when they have left earlier in the day. So I think this is going to be advantageous for the Jags. I think they kind of acclimate a little bit quicker. They'll do some light stuff, whatever treatment, and then they'll practice tomorrow and they'll be on their way. But even if they had left 4 hours earlier, there was just going to be a walk-through stretch type of deal today here at the team hotel in London. So I actually think this is a bit of we'll see. Now, we'll see if I'm right. But, like, I can just tell you from me, I feel so much better than any other time that I've come over here. Because we left later. And I'm not playing the game. So hopefully those guys will feel the same way. Now, Delphonic, what's Delphonic saying? What's better, lobster bisque on Shad's yacht or beans on toast in London? We'll go with the lobster bisque here. Delphonic, no doubt. I'm a New England guy, by the way. So lobster bisque takes the cake, no doubt about it.
What's up with the English? I've never had a proper English breakfast. Have you had one there?
I don't know if I've had proper, but last year where we were, they had like a pretty good breakfast spread, and there were things that I don't even remember. I don't even know what it was. Like, it just was like, what is this? And it was beans and stuff like that. It's like, for breakfast, like, it was kind of odd. I can't remember it exactly now, but it was different. Now, here's the deal, Austin. I'll tell you this. A lot of people complain about the food over here. I don't. Like, I don't think the food's bad at all. And they've got, like, it's a very diverse place, London is anyway. So you can eat just about any kind of food if you were in the city. But I've never really found the food to be as bad as everybody else kind of talks about.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I mean, like, overall, like, listen, I've never been to the UK. I don't want to put beans on my toast. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, beans are okay. I'm not gonna feature them. Like, I can think of 25 different proteins I'd rather feature in my breakfast than beans. But I will be honest, man. When it comes to, like, fish and chips, go ahead and, like, pile that on, man. I'm a fish and chips junkie. Yeah. But it's got to be with, like, the proper like, I can't do the whole vinegar thing and that's it. Like, go and put some tartar sauce in there too, please.
Yeah, a little tartar sauce. You got to have it. Yeah, I love the fish and chips. Andy Cray, by the way, we can't slander anything over here in London. I mean, we're in his homeland, all right. So, like, and he's listening, and he's a good dude. He's a good follower of the show. So, anything we have questions for, Andy gets to answer today. If he's in, he looks like he's joining the chat. So maybe he has some time. Does that say corner of my screen? I can't see it. Have you had the what?
Black pudding?
I've never heard of that. No.
I've heard of blood pudding. I've never heard of black pudding, though. And
is
once
it like
again,
chocolate?
Probably wouldn't. Well, that'd probably be brown pudding. I'm not sure, but I don't know. It's like black licorice pudding because, hey, if that's the case, England, you got to do better. If it's black licorice pudding, there's no way. I'm sorry. And, like, listen, I want to respect diplomatic relations and everything overseas. Well, that's a word, is it not?
Yes, that's a very good. It's a very good phrase.
Thank you very much. I'm trying to make fun of me, man.
Oh, yeah. No. That's the funniest thing. Not what I expected you to say.
You know what?
I would
give fried pig's blood pudding a try over black licorice pudding.
Here's the deal. I will give fried pig's blood pudding a try over chocolate pudding because I can't stand that. So
really?
He tried blood pudding in Ireland, thought it was a sausage round. My gosh, I got to go check this out. The texture of this food you guys are all talking about isn't making sense in my mind anymore.
Brent, how isn't Action Sports Jags done like some kind of like food breakdown of the UK?
Yeah, well, I try to leave that for the reporters coming over. But yeah, Stuart, maybe Stuart can do that for us.
There you go.
But I haven't done that. Fried pig's blood. I'm going to check. I'm going to look into it. I'm not sure I'm going to try it, but I'm going to look into it now, Andy. All right, let's do this. Take a time out.
Question. Go ahead. How do you fry blood, though?
Oh, you can fry anything.
We're going to have to hit Google. We're going to hit Google, I guess, for all this. Because I don't even know. Like, I'm having a hard time visualizing what this even looks like.
Yeah, man. It's
Brent, I was going to hop in to ask, is there a restaurant over there that you've been to in years past that's like, oh, that's circled, y'all are already planning on going to already?
No, there really isn't. You know a little bit about that too, Handy, it feels like it feels like we have been in so many different locations over here. And some of them might just be blocks away, but you still go kind of navigate to a different restaurant or whatever else. And seriously, there are a ton of different kinds of food to eat. And so last year we went to this little like hole in the wall, I think Turkish restaurant, I think it was. And it was very good. I had never had that. So it's a great place to try some different things. But nah, not really, man. I don't, there's not a favorite. But a lot of that's just due to proximity. Like we are nowhere near where we were last year in terms of hotel. So I won't be navigating the same streets, if you will. In fact, I'll probably be just sitting here. There's a golf course here now, so if I find time to play, I might run some clubs. And it's a beautiful day. It's about like 55 degrees, man. Like that's like half of what you are, Austin, right now.
Oh yeah, I think we're like at 101 today. Record temperatures here. Haven't seen the rain, Brent, in so long, and I'm sure this dry desert needs it. But what are you gonna do? I'm gonna be honest. Like I've been marinating myself in like Vaseline because my skin is getting so dry here in this desert. It's ridiculous. I don't know how people live here, honestly.
Yeah,
like I don't get the yeah, it's cool, the desert, and there's like mountains and stuff, and and that's cool for like a day, but to like revolve your life around this dryness, around just like cracked lips and ashy skin, come on, man, what are we doing here, Vegas?
Plenty of people live there and wonder why we live where we live sometimes, especially in the summer months. Let's take a time out here on the show. Brent Austen Show on a Friday. We've got a bunch of stuff. Best bet to get to, our 6 picks to get to. Oh, look at this. Black pudding. There it is.
Not really pudding though, huh?
Yeah, that's not what I was thinking it was.
Now that makes sense. Yeah, that looks fried for sure. I mean, I'm going to be honest. The top left corners, that looks just like burnt croutons. Like, those are croutons that were left in the oven way too long.
Which looks like pumpernickel bread or something that.
Yeah,
right?
That's like Grandma was making a Thanksgiving dinner, might have passed out a bit, and man, Thanksgiving dinner might be ruined with those croutons.
All right, I may have to try this just for the heck of it. We'll do it. We go from that to this. I don't think they have blood pudding pizza at Donato's, by the way. Donato's.
If you want a real meal,
Jack's Beach Mandarin location.
Pineapple pizza, even worse.
Brent 20 is the code. 20% off your order for Donato's Pizza. Give a call this weekend. Jack's Beach and Mandarin locations.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
It's a new logo, new branding. With Bold City Heating and Air, it's an old school approach. One of the few locally owned and operated air conditioning businesses left in Jacksonville. It's hot, Florida in the summer. You can't do much to avoid it, but you can keep cool with Bold City Heating and Air. It's every customer counts kind of service, from when these trucks have pulled up to my home over the last couple of years and when they pull into your driveway as well. From communication to pricing to the actual service, everyone at Bold City Heating and Air cares about you. You know who is coming to your house. You know they will be well trained, and they will respect your home. Air conditioning convenience at boldcityac.com. Stay cool while it gets hot. Bold City Heating and Air can help. Don't get caught sweating all summer. boldcityac.com, and they have financing to help. New systems starting at $110 a month and $50 off any repairs. Stay safe, stay comfortable with Bold City Heating and Air at boldcityac.com. Homegrown in your hometown. Nobody but Nimnicht. Our family has purchased 6 vehicles from Nimnicht Buick GMC. The #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville has lots of inventory to choose from with their best price guarantee. Who gives you top dollar for your trade? Nobody but Nimnicht. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierras or get rates as low as 1.9%. You know, I'm a truck guy. GMC Sierra, my trim level is an SLT. This one's an Elevation. Pretty good looking color as well. So here at Nimnicht Buick GMC, you have a lot to pick from. My father-in-law, he drives this, an Enclave, so I feel like that GMC in the family. 2025 is coming around the corner, which means it's almost time to close out those 2024s this summer. You can schedule a test drive at nimnichtbuickgmc.com, and while you're there, check your trade value and customize your payment options. Nimnicht is there for you, even on Sundays. So, who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? The answer's simple. Nobody but Nimnicht. Your friends in the car business since 1941. GMC, we are professional grade. If you need a quality play this football season at your home, call That One Painter First Coast. Locally owned and operated, experienced employees, no builder grade materials. And there's more, and for that we throw it to Noah Schlicksup. That One Painter First Coast can apparently help your kicking game too.
Well, after my failure on skinny sticks last year on Creekside game day, I've spent a lot of time out here at Creekside practicing my kicks. There's only one issue. How is that even possible? The good news is I know exactly who can help. That One Painter can handle all your painting needs, from field goal posts to cabinets to stucco. They got you covered. Though they may not be able to help with my kicking, they can certainly help with the posts. Call That One Painter First Coast today for all your painting needs at 904-495-1373.
Hey, I think that's a shot of our studios back there at the Action Sports Jags 24/7 Network studios. And was that the end of the commercial, or did we just jump the gun, or we just wanted to take a look at home? That's
Do you have some breaking news?
Jacksonville, right there. We're on each end of Jacksonville, like far away, Las Vegas, all the way to London, here in Hotel Brent Austen edition of the show on the Action Sports Jags 24/7 Network. Hey, a couple of programming notes while we do all this, and by the way, it looks like we're going to be able to pull this off, knock on wood, but hopefully hang with us if some things go sideways a little bit. But so far so good, this far away from each other. Because of the storm, Hurricane Milton, hopefully everybody's good, and family members, everybody around the state. Obviously, it was a big one and affected a lot of people. We won't have our Friday night zone blitz tonight. And we won't have a 10:30 edition of the Friday Night Blitz. We will do a 15-minute edition tonight because there are some games, including our game of the week, Fernandina and Yulee. So we'll have some of that. We'll have a report from London, of course, as well. That throughout the day on Action News Jax. But there's a bunch of other programming going on our Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. That includes our show here until 1, and then the Young and Norvell show 4 to 6, Plus, we turned the Tom Coughlin into the pride of the Jaguars into a 1-hour special with sit-down interviews and some of the moments from Sunday. So you might want to see that today on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. And that will replay a bunch of different times too. So just a new show added to the rotation for at least the next couple of days, and Fall Sports High School Media Day as well. Not football media day, but other sports. So we shine the light on kids, courtesy of High School 912 and many others in the area. That will replay on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. So anyway, just some programming notes there as we continue to jockey things around a little bit, especially with the hurricane throwing some things off. Brent Martineau here, Austen Lane in Las Vegas. I texted you something last night. We were just kind of having some show ideas throughout the day yesterday and seeing some different things. And I don't know why I thought of this. And you can tell me if this is a little bit too far-fetched or not. Okay. But somehow I thought, like, how much pressure there's been on, like, Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne in these last couple of years to produce, right? They were brought over here to change the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were brought over here on pretty big dollar contracts. And by the way, you could throw some other guys in here too, Austin, like Foye Oluokun, I think, is another one that fits this. But now I wonder if they can just go play a little more free with a little bit less weight on their shoulders. We talk about this with Trevor Lawrence a lot. And Trevor, let's put him aside in this conversation because he doesn't have somebody that can also come in and help him out in this category. He's kind of his own guy. But now with the emergence of Brian Thomas Jr. and with the emergence of Tank Bigsby and the emergence even a little bit here of Brenton Strange, does that take a little bit of the load off these guys from a mental standpoint so they can now just go play? Because they understood the task, is my point. I've been around these guys a bunch. They understood what they were brought here to do. Etienne in that backfield, Ingram obviously is a veteran tight end, and Kirk especially as that blanket for Trevor Lawrence and help grow this offense and change the offense. And by the way, they've done a very admirable job of doing that here in Jacksonville. If you want to go look at offense, pre-2022 in Jacksonville, good luck. Especially from a passing game standpoint. Doug Peterson has brought that. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, Trevor, of course, they have brought that element to Jacksonville for the first time since I've been in Jacksonville, a passing offense. So they've done a heck of a job. But can that happen almost in a subconscious way that now it's like, hey, I don't have to do everything. Brian Thomas Jr. is getting all the attention, Austin. This is why I thought of this topic. Because it's like all the attention is on Brian Thomas Jr. right now. Everybody's got their eyes on number 7. You're going to start seeing defenses probably shade him a little bit more. And then guess who gets to eat? Those guys underneath and those guys that are so crafty and those guys that are tough to guard and very good in their own right, and maybe an Ingram and definitely a Kirk. So that's what made me think about it a little bit. And I just wonder if subconsciously we start to see even better play out of those guys. Of course, Ingram's coming back after missing games, but Kirk is starting to get in a little bit of a groove, and we'll see if Etienne even feels that same way if they can find the right balance in the backfield with these guys.
Yeah, so the overall synopsis we're getting to here is does the younger talent take some of the pressure off the older talent, right? That's kind of the synopsis here. And that's a fair question. I think you can broach it a couple different ways. Here's where I go with it. I think every player that you mentioned, their circumstances are different. So for instance, with Evan Ingram, has Brenton Strange kind of, took some of the load off Evan Ingram? It's like, okay, well, you don't have to be the guy because Brenton Strange is starting to come along a little bit. It's had a really nice touchdown catch and everything. And it seems like, okay, it's starting to make a little more sense now of why they drafted him where they did. I don't agree with that with Evan Ingram, though, just because he is supposed to be the vocal leader of this team. He's supposed to be the guy that, sets the tempo, sets the expectation, that's going to get the message of Doug Peterson across to his teammates. So maybe in terms of pressure on the field of having to be the go-to guy, having to be the red zone target, having to make the big plays, be Trevor's security blanket, has that kind of gone on the wayside a little bit? You can maybe make an argument now and say, yeah, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. has something to do with that as well. but I don't think there's any pressure being relieved because when he comes back, he's got to be the leader in that locker room, right? Because you've sensed that they've missed his absence. So I think the pressure on Evan Ingram, just because the pressure to be a leader is always going to be there, stays pretty much the same. I think with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, yeah, obviously now, and we'll see what the workload's going to look like. I think a lot of fans, including myself, want to see more of a 50-50 split because Tank Bigsby has earned that right. At the same time, though, we now have the conversation of, okay, well, we may have a future running back now in Tank Bigsby. Do we really need to re-sign Travis Etienne to anything? And the answer is probably not at this moment, right? So if that's the case and I'm Travis Etienne, well, now there's pressure on me to perform because, number one, I'm trying to get a second contract. And number two, I'm not sure if you've seen the markets of running backs lately, but it's not a great one. So the more carries that I lose to Tank Bigsby, the more I'm worried about the longevity of my career and getting another big contract. So once again, in terms of maybe the physical part of the pressure of having to put the team on your back, no, it's not on Travis Etienne now. But to me, it adds more mental pressure because, well, now you got to kind of like fight for your reps and everything and try to get that second contract. With Christian Kirk, I think this is the prime example right here, Brent, because this was a guy in an offense a couple years ago where sometimes it felt like he's all that you had, right? And he had to go out there and make every single play. You don't need that now. And I still think Christian Kirk is respected in NFL circles where, once again, I'm not trying to cause any smoke or anything like that, but like if they were to trade him or get some kind of value for him, I think plenty of teams would be interested. So I think with Christian Kirk, yeah, I think some of the pressure has been relieved a little bit, especially if he's going through some injuries, things like that, because now you have the emergence of Brian Thomas Jr. So like I said, I think every player is different, but I think Christian Kirk is the one that's benefiting the most in terms of, okay, I don't got to be a true number one receiver. I don't got to go out there and get, 12 targets a game or anything because now we have other players to fill that role.
Well done. Well done. By the way,
you.
sometimes I can dig too deep on a topic, and I was a little concerned that this one might fill that bucket there. And I just thought you did that really well because I think first of all that's exactly the way I was thinking of it. In a lot of respects. And it really started with Kirk and the Thomas thing, because man, is that kid getting a lot of attention and he's delivering. And I'm interested to see how he handles some of the attention from defenses. Now, I think we can all wonder that. I think that's a little tricky, but we really haven't had a lot of that around here. We thought maybe Calvin Ridley would get some of that at times, not the way it worked out last year. So it'll be interesting to see if Brian Thomas has to deal with a little bit more of that. But like we're saying, they have a lot of guys to get the football to now. You don't have to force it to Thomas. I know people want to see Thomas catch it, but you don't have to force it to him. So I love the way I do think you're right. I think this started for me in my mind with Kirk, and I think it continues with, I think Kirk can really benefit here from the emergence of Brian Thomas Jr. And by the way, Kirk was doing fine himself. I don't want this to be something like he needs this or anything else. No, that you brought up, the way you brought up Ingram was actually the way I kind of look at what they've had to do in terms of pressure. They've had to lead the locker room, man, right? They've had to flip the culture. They've also had to produce. They've had to bring Trevor along a little bit. That's a lot. Like there's a lot on those. And I'm not telling you they complain about it or even think about it, but I do think there's kind of a subconscious sometimes in those categories that maybe gets just a little bit alleviated here or there. And then the other one was we welcome Hamby in here. You said it about Etienne. That's the tricky one. Where does that one go? Etienne, man, what a great teammate he was this past week. I mean, you see him mic'd up and what he's saying about Bigsby. He's like, I feel like a proud papa, and then in the locker room, all that. Oh, what a great job. But hey, this can be a selfish business, right? You need yours too. Can they figure that balance out? What does that look like? And when he gets his opportunities, is he playing free or is he going to press a little bit? Be like, wait a minute now, that guy's playing really well. I don't hope he's not taking my job. I don't think that's the case in Jacksonville. I think, Hamby, I think both of these guys can coexist. I think this is a major challenge, though, for the coaching staff to figure out when do you give it to Tank? When do you give it to Etienne? How do we use both of these guys to make us really, really good without shifting and forcing a narrative and creating a dynamic that is unneeded, both externally and maybe even internally?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it could be. Sometimes I want to take that away though, because that is exactly what your job is as a coach: is to figure out which guy should play in which role in the best defined way to get the most out of both of them, and that's kind of your whole deal. And the good part about those two guys is they are both plus in every category, in my opinion. So you're not really losing a ton in one way or the other. You could make definitely an argument that Tank could improve a lot in the pass game, or pass blocking, of course, but he can still do the job, and it allows you to not only have him in when you're running, or not only have Travis in when you're in passing downs and stuff like that. My question is when you talk about the benefit to Christian Kirk or guys like him and Evan Ingram with BTJ, if we start to see, I guess I'll pivot this one towards Austen. If we start to see Brian Thomas Jr. get even more attention from defenses, now that there's 5 games of tape on him at the NFL level, start to see more too high safety, whatever you want to call it, guys, making sure that he doesn't beat him deep. And so he gets less targets, right? With how almost feverish Jags fans have been about target BTJ, no matter what. If he starts to have 3, 4, 5 targets a game because he's getting doubled or whatever, and Kirk starts to pop with 8, 9, 10 catches, and the offense is still doing well, do you think fans will still be complaining if BTJ's stats start to dwindle at some point in this season?
No, I mean, I don't think they're going to be complaining set aside from what the offense looks like, Hamby. If they're still scoring, if they're still moving the football, then it's hard to complain because you're going to the open receiver. But here's why I don't think you're going to see a drop in targets. You're going to see a drop in production with Brian Thomas Jr. And to me, this is the Tyreek. Well, I say Tyreek Hill, but obviously they're going through a quarterback situation right now. Let's call it the Justin Jefferson effect. Okay, and this is a guy who's on my fantasy team, and I know I keep on bringing up fantasy football all the time, but this is a good example here. So Justin Jefferson, I think we can all agree right now, is probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But people were leery of drafting him so early in fantasy football because it was like, well, what is his production really going to be like without a proper quarterback? Teams are going to obviously double him now because Addison was out, Hawkinson was out. Yeah, you got Dalvin Cook, but it's the Justin Jefferson show. And my point is that if you're a great wide receiver, they're going to scheme you ways to get open. Even in Miami right now, where it seems like nobody can throw a football to Tyreek Hill, they're still trying to find ways to get him the football. Now, I'm not saying that Brian Thomas Jr. is going to get the Justin Jefferson treatment quite yet, where they're literally going to have all these different plays just geared towards him getting open. And I'm not sure if we're going to break down the play today or not, but if you look back at Brian Thomas Jr.'s long touchdown run, yeah, obviously there's skill involved there, but go back and watch it. That play was tailor-made for him because they faked an 8-yard hook route.
Right.
The safety bit on it, and all of a sudden Brian Thomas Jr. is wide open. That play was schemed for the long ball to Brian Thomas Jr. So I'm not nervous. I'm not nervous in teams maybe double teaming him because I think Doug Peterson, Press Taylor, or the combination, let's just call it the conglomerate from now on, all right, of who's calling the plays. We'll just call it the conglomerate, trademark it, do what you want to do. I think they're going to scheme him ways to get open regardless of what the defense is going to try to do to stop him.
Well, there are a couple elements now to this. I think you're right. I think they can. They are not in force-feeding mode, even if fans want them to be. But I do think, what's the impact on Brian Thomas Jr.? How does he navigate that? That'll be the next step, maybe, if you will, in his career. All good players have to figure that out. I still have to get open. I've got to be patient. I've got to do my job, all these other things, even if I'm not always getting the ball and eating. Then the other thing is Trevor. Trevor's got to be careful not to stuff it into him, right? Even if they're doing some things, and just make sure he gets his. Might be some times where he's just going to be a decoy, and now you throw it to all your other guys. That's the beauty of the Jags. They've got a lot of other guys that can fill that void. So I think it's just and then on the coaching front, what can they scheme open, but also not get carried away with it because you've got a bunch of different guys. So I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. I think there's a lot of layers here, and it really shows you what one player, the domino effect, guys, of what one player can kind of do to your offense and really start to do to your defense. I think the Jags already have guys to game plan around. Nightmare matchup is Evan Ingram. I think Kirk is really good in specific spots of the field, specific coverages. He's almost impossible to defend at times in some of the looks that he gets. Obviously, ETN and Bigsby have that. Trevor can make every throw. So, and then you add Brian Thomas Jr. in that speed element, right? That's different kind of speed. And the play that he has right now has made you open your eyes and look for defenses. So, I mean, again, where this offense can be is where it was last week, 37 points. Where it should have been against Houston. Houston, they should have scored about 35 points, quite frankly, if they hit on a couple of plays. They are one of the most explosive teams in the NFL right now. I think given the fact of the weapons they have and what they've proven in the past and what Brian Thomas has proven now, if they block it up front and Trevor's playing good ball, they should be able to do these kind of things almost no matter what defense you face, Austin.
No, without a doubt. And that's going to be the goal, right? And that's what good offenses do, Brent. Doesn't matter what you throw at them. You have the weapons to make plays. You have the weapons to score points. And I get it. Right now it's in its infancy because let's pump the brakes a little bit. You played an Indianapolis defense that, all things considered with Gus Bradley, we love them, but, they've been surrendering some points this year a little bit. So, I think another test is going to be now Chicago. And I get Chicago has injuries like every other team's got injuries, but, can Brian Thomas Jr. win against this Bears secondary? Can Trevor Lawrence find the open guy in this Bears secondary? And obviously a great dose of the run with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby is going to help out a lot. But this will be a great showcase game to see, okay, because offense, Brent, I mean, I think you agree with me here. It's all about momentum, right? It's all about feeling good. It's all about getting your confidence. And right now you have a team that has confidence. And guess what? The Bears offense has confidence as well playing against the Carolina Panthers. But if we focus on the Jaguars part, they're probably more confident than ever right now, and they should be. And guess what? Maybe you're getting Evan Ingram back as well. So confidence even boosted more. So now can they keep it rolling? Can they keep it, everyone happy, everyone being fed? That's going to be one of the biggest storylines, I think, of this game coming up here on Sunday.
Yeah, Luke brings up a good point here. He says, do you think BTJ is already becoming the comfort guy for Trevor? And I guess on many respects, we're asking that, right? We're kind of saying that. When I think of that, Austin, I don't think he is. I think he's one of his comfort guys. That's the beauty about what Trevor has right now. See, Brian Thomas Jr. is doing something that Calvin Ridley could not do for Trevor last year. He's feeding confidence. He's growing each and every week. Calvin, we didn't get that. It was too inconsistent. It didn't look like they ever got fully connected on the same page. Their talents were able to still do things, but it just never fully happened. But keep in mind, the comfort zones for Trevor Lawrence, and this hasn't changed in my opinion, that's definitely Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. And then if Brian Thomas Jr. becomes another one, now you've got a few of them, right? Because I don't think he's losing Kirk and Ingram as his comfort, connections, if you will.
Yeah, what's crazy about when we compare Calvin Ridley and Brian Thomas Jr., it's almost like two ships that are passing in the night because we had such high expectations in training camp from what we saw from Calvin Ridley where it's like, and dude, I told a story. Like I was on the phone with all my friends saying, man, this guy's going to be a fantasy stud just because I'm watching him in training camp and like the way that he runs routes, it's just different. So we all expected like this breakout year for Calvin Ridley. And like we thought he was going to be the dude for a long time. And then we had Brian Thomas Jr. who, okay, yeah, I mean, he has the resume from the combine. He has the resume from college football, but like we didn't really see necessarily a lot of big plays in training camp. Like we saw maybe one play here or there in the preseason game, but like there wasn't a lot of hype like I felt like Calvin Ridley had. Well, lo and behold, though, when it comes to the regular season now, it's like, all right, Brian Thomas Jr. is obviously making his bread, and Calvin Ridley playing with Will Levis, not so much.
Yeah, that's a great call. Right? It sounds like I should do a story on that. Really,
yeah.
That's
because I mean, because once again, parallel. I don't think I was doing the show with you when it was the Calvin. Well, maybe I was, but I just remember like all the hype on Calvin Ridley. No, I wasn't doing the show yet. But I just remember everyone being so excited. This guy the routes look different. He's so quick and everything. And then we got to regular season and it was like, yeah, it was okay. And the Brian Thomas Jr. situation was like, man, is this guy going to make some plays here? Should we be worried? Okay, there's a nice long ball in practice against the Buccaneers. I guess we'll take that. And then all of a sudden, when the lights come on and the game's the brightest, that's when he shines.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. I think it's a great call. It's a good parallel. I also don't think every time you say something about Brian Thomas Jr. and you involve Calvin Ridley, that it has to be this. Like, it doesn't have to be a negative. It's stretchy Hamby here again.
Stretchy Hamby.
$25 million.
That's not that bad.
It is 9 receptions. Your standard sucks. That's why 9 receptions, 141 yards in the touchdown. Everybody in the chat, tell them how bad the picture looks. Hamby thinks it looks good. 9 receptions, 141 yards and a touchdown for Ridley. Yeah, listen, but he's also got Will Levis and listen. We knew this, Austin. You weren't supposed to pay Ridley $24 million or whatever it was, right? I mean, like that. Yeah. We liked him. But it wasn't that. But I'm serious. I don't think every time you talk about Ridley, you have to say, and it doesn't always have to be negative. I think he did some good things. I just don't think they ever fully got on the same page. I think he was also a little bit of the poster child why some of their offense was clunky. It wasn't just him, but I think you can just picture these moments where it was clunky a little bit. But Andy Christ says this, hey, comfort zones is such a negative way of describing QB, making good on the talent of his teammates. And I would disagree with you here, Andy, because I think what comfort zones means to me, at least, is confidence, right? Like, and that's where I think you never fully got there with Ridley last year and Trevor. You never saw it. We talk about these things all the time, rapport and relationship and timing with a quarterback. And that's why they work in the offseason. That's why they go to Bishop Kenny and go do some work, or Episcopal, because they want to get that timing down. They want to, hey, when he plants his foot in the ground, where's he going to be on this landmark? Like, those are legitimate things. But what really comes out of that is trust and confidence. This is no different than Foye Oluokun and being able to trust Devin Lloyd or a Chad Muma or somebody else in the linebacking room, right? And he struggled with that at times. And then you catch those guys up, and now you can play faster yourself. So I think that comfort zone, maybe it's not the greatest phrase, but I do think there is something to it, because it's confidence and trust that really emerges. And the more you can have that with your guys, I mean, listen, in my opinion, that is why Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce have been the kings of the NFL. It's solely because of that. And you might not say comfort zone, but you say confidence, trust, relationship, nuance. Like, you throw those kind of words out there with those guys, rhythm, right? I mean, they're like speaking the same language.
Yep. Yeah.
So anyway, I do think it's an important deal. It's just a matter of how you want to characterize it. And I think we've already seen that, which is really cool, because if you go before Trevor and Kirk, Austin, or Trevor and Ingram, do you remember like that in Jacksonville? Like, I'm trying to think of a relationship in Jacksonville, QB to receiver, QB to tight end, that was like, okay, I get it. Like, I go back to David Garrard and Mercedes Lewis, big Pro Bowl year in 2010. Yeah. Like, that was a nice little connection they had going. I mean, his best year receiving. Allen Robinson had a big year with Bortles, right? Mm-hmm. Go ahead. You're good. I just woke up.
Oh, no, I got you. No, it was, I feel like it was kind of short-lived, but I always felt like whoever was throwing the ball, that Justin Blackmon had that, just because he was that talented of a receiver. Now, obviously, we didn't get a lot of it. And I can't even, listen, I always try to block out that Houston game when I think whoever the quarterback was, Matt Castle, Matt Schaub, started with an M, whatever, threw for 500 yards against us. But, if you go back to that game, too, the Jaguars offense was kind of humming with Justin Blackmon. He had, a career day. So I always felt like, and it might have been more Blaine Gabbert, I think, had more of the reps with Justin Blackmon. But I felt like Blackmon was so good as a wide receiver, it didn't really matter who was throwing the football. You're going to have a rapport just because he was so good at getting open and turning even short yards into long yards.
Yeah, and Austin, let's piggyback this with, and then we'll hit a break. By the way, we're way late on a break, but Kirk didn't have the role that he has in Jacksonville and Arizona, but you could also kind of feel like, I don't think that was going to happen with Kyler Murray. You know what I mean? That relationship or whatever else.
Well, keep in mind, Brent, I mean, they had DeAndre Hopkins too, right? And that guy commands a lot of attention.
And even trying to think the crossover now, but obviously Kirk played his first couple of years with Fitzgerald as well, which would have been the guy.
Yeah.
So it's just like he had to develop into that. But I like what you just said about Blackman. See, Blackman to me does fit in the almost Justin Jefferson category, and maybe Brian Thomas fits in this category, which also is an okay category to be in. Throw the ball up, he'll go get it. But like Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson don't have like this rapport and relationship. It's like, no, that guy's just really good. I'm going to throw it down the field. And Kirk Cousins did it. I think a lot of quarterbacks could do it. And I'm not even taking anything away from Darnold. He's doing a brilliant job of it right now. But I think you're right about that. But maybe Brian Thomas is that guy too, where if Mac Jones had to come in for a game, throw it up, boom, no problem, or anyway.
Yeah.
So that's a special dude. I think Blackman, you're right, was on the verge of that. I just don't know if we got enough sample size with any quarterback to really know in those days with Justin Blackman. And by the way, Austin, you do kind of wonder if the off the field stuff, if that QB even did trust him, because of what was going on maybe behind the scenes that they knew and we didn't even know potentially at the time. You don't have any of those kind of things behind the scenes or off the field with a Brian Thomas Jr., Ingram, Kirk. Like these relationships are really good and strong and continue to evolve, which is kind of cool. So it's good stuff. All right, let's do this. Take a time out. We got a lot to get to. We still got to get to our picks. Austin's with us till about 12:15, then he's going to get ready. He's about a week away now from the fight, so he's got a lot of work to do over the next week, but we'll be in and out of the show while in Vegas over the next 6 days or so while we do a show. Leading up to next Saturday's fight. Looks like a beautiful day back home in Jacksonville. It was a beautiful evening last night when we left. So that is good finally. And everybody can get back to some normalcy in the River City while others get cleaning up around the state of Florida as well. We'll be back on the Brent Austen Show. We're live from London and Las Vegas. Never said that before, but we are here on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. There are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jag Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242. You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing. Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Maybe you need a new tankless water heater or something a bit more intricate. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
At Southampton, local golfers have no shortage of options when it comes to picking a course to play here in Northeast Florida year-round. Yet time and time again, I find myself here at the golf club at Southampton. Easy to get to off 210 in St. Johns County. It's family-owned and operated and renowned for being one of the area's most player-friendly. That's just one of the reasons we hold the Action Sports Jax Dream 18 charity golf tournament here each fall. The Mark McCumber design layout is great for all skill levels of golfers, from the guys who bomb it a mile on the range to golfers like me who are just happy to put it in the fairway, which Southampton has very accommodating fairways. And if you need new clubs, come down to the pro shop. They'll fit you up and get you a nice new set like they did for me. For more information on membership or to book a tee time and see for yourself, head over to golfsouthampton.com or call the clubhouse at 904-287-7529. The Golf Club at Southampton. It's the official home of the Action Sports Jax Dream 18. Make it your home for golf too.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
In Springfield any day.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show. Obviously, a live look over Everbank Stadium. We got Brent out in London. We got Austen out in Vegas. 9:30 kick, Austen, which means it's going to be an early one for you. How we feeling about what time are you going to be watching that football game Sunday morning?
Hey,
6?
Hey, Hamby, glad you asked. 6 o'clock in the morning, Hamby. Not ideal. Not ideal by any means. I will be honest. I think last week, who was it? It was Minnesota and New York, I think was the UK game or whatever.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
So Friday night's going to be a little more, Saturday night's going to be a little more laid back, and I'll probably be going to bed early, which is going to be hard because we got Oregon and Ohio State. My son being a giant Oregon fan, I'm going to have to watch that one a little bit. But overall, man, yeah, it sucks getting up at 6 o'clock to watch some football and try to get your mind ready for it. But it's a big game, man. I'll be up. I'll be watching.
So, Saturday night, that'll be, if the Oregon Ohio State game is at 7:30, that'll be, you'll be up to 1:30 at a minimum, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping for a blowout here.
Not happening.
I'm hoping it's going to be, Oregon goes up big right away, which probably won't be the case. So it'll probably be a nail-biting game that comes down to the fourth quarter. Heaven forbid it comes down to overtime. I'll be up till like all hours of the night. But yeah, it'll be a late one. But it's, we had Fitz on the show like last week about talking about this, and it's good and bad, right? Like, no, I don't like getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to watch College Game Day. Okay, like that's not ideal. But I do like when you have a primetime game start at 5:15, 5:30, and you're done by what? 7:38 and you still have time to like eat dinner and everything, like that's pretty cool, right? Because on the East Coast, man, we do these primetime games, they can get pretty late. So I'm not upset about that. And I will say, in terms of, and this is more related to the Scrap House podcast that me and Casey Kurtz do, I do not like the fact that, listen, in a perfect world, okay, East Coast time, wrestling, 8 o'clock, sounds good. We'll see you there. Well, they don't cater to that on the West Coast. So, like, they still have the 8 o'clock start time on the West Coast. It's just kind of like, you know, taped and everything, which I don't appreciate. Because I can't even go on like my app and on my YouTube TV to like watch it live on the East Coast because I'm in, you know, Vegas time. So I have to wait till 8 o'clock to watch my wrestling as well, which is not ideal.
It's brutal.
Oh yeah,
am I back?
You are back.
Oh, we got you, and make sure that you tell Stuart we say hi too, because I heard every single.
Hold on.
Talking about. So
let's see.
That was great trying to have a conversation when I have Stuart Weber in my ear as well.
What is that potion you're drinking right now? That was like some raspberry something.
Smoothie, Brent. This isn't the first rodeo here. It's a smoothie.
Yeah. It looks a little more like a Hamby's shirt today than I've seen in the past.
No, man. What can I say? I have a tummy ache. It's Pepto-Bismol.
It's Austin. A nice, Hamby. You switched teams. You're going with Florida State colors now after UCF back-to-back losses. So I get it.
Get up.
Yeah. Hey, so you were just talking about that time. I was thinking of this. Tomorrow's a great slate of college football, right? And Hamby, you guys both know this, but I think 7:30 kick for back home for Oregon and Ohio State, right?
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's like 12:30 kick for us here. I'm not even going to see the sniff of that game. Well, maybe very little. And also, it's not always easy to find like the college football games because they don't care about it here. So you might not get the amount of them, right? Unless you're trying to peek in on, on a YouTube TV or something else that you might have, but which we probably will do. But with the Jags playing the next day, I'm not sure I'm staying up till 3:30 in the morning to watch Oregon, Ohio State. Like that's the one bad thing about some of those road games. Hamby, you'll like this story. I was one of the years where it would have been 2018. The Red Sox played the Dodgers in the World Series. And do you remember that game went, or you can look it up, but I forget what game it was now, maybe game 2. And it went
Eduardo Rodriguez
and
spiking the glove.
Yeah. The Red Sox lost in 18 innings, I think it was, in that one. But I listened to that game. I listened to it. I had to listen. I couldn't watch it. I couldn't find it. And so I stayed in bed and listened to that game until like 6 a.m. So it was one of those deals where we flew in. It was a Friday night, so you're a little listen to the Red Sox. They ended up winning that World Series, by the way. We found out that they won the last game of that World Series, the clinching game, when we were on the plane ride home back to Jacksonville. So that was a weird sports experience for me, especially as a Red Sox fan. But yeah, these time changes really mess you up on what you want to watch and everything else. All right, so let's do this. What's up?
Well, I'll ask you this real quick. So where exactly in England are you guys staying? Like what region? And then also what I guess would be like the Premier League soccer team that's represented there, and do you kind of feel like that ambiance of soccer fandom where you guys are staying?
I'm not going to be good at this answer.
Okay, yep. Stuart, we should have brought Stuart in. Sorry. Next question. Yep.
We are in a place called Watford. Okay. Watford. But so I was cool with giving the first part. I was like, hey, at least I know where we are. I have no idea. I'm trying to look real quick and see if by the way, Watford is northwest London. And I have no idea what soccer teams are around. I'm not. Okay. I really just don't know. But it's a good question. I'll try to figure out if there's something close by. We're not in the middle. We've been in the middle of nowhere before with the Jags. Last year, we're not in the middle of nowhere, but we're also not right in the city. So there might be a soccer team close by. I just don't know of it. So good question. I'll have to ask Weber about that part of it. You had me bamboozled when you started asking me English Premier League geography here in London. Can't do it.
Sorry.
Can't answer it. Would not get it right on Jeopardy. Let's do this.
Listen, I just didn't know if there's like people like rocking the same jerseys, like all, you know what I mean? Like obviously you go to certain NFL cities, you know, like you'll see like the same jersey. I mean, Jacksonville's a little different because, you know, it's Jacksonville.
London might be a little bit more like Jacksonville in that respect, right? I'm not sure you get like everybody wearing the same. I think you do get a lot of crossover, even especially in central London. You're going to get a lot of crossover. The most I feel like I always see is I see a lot of Chelsea when I've been here in the past. Like I feel that one pops out at me quite a bit. But that's a good call. Like they are so close together, a lot of them. So you're not getting like, hey, I go to Kansas City and there's all Chiefs fans, right? If you go to New England, there's all Patriots. I don't think it's like that. Maybe Andy can jump in and tell us that a little bit more, and Weber would know it too. So I'll ask him. All right, let's do some picks, guys. Just in case we don't get to them a little bit later. And we were talking some college football. We got some great college football games, and I can help us all and lead us. I think we're still in the lead, so that's a good thing right now. So I was mentioning the Ohio State-Oregon game. How big is this game? I don't know for Ohio State because everybody seemingly can get a mulligan right now, especially if you get that mulligan against somebody that's really good. But it's a fun game. At 2.5 at Oregon, Ohio State is the favorite. Oregon has not been as good as everybody kind of thought they would be. They've been a little clunky in the first half of the football season. You like Ohio State here or you like Oregon at home?
Hamby, I'll let you go first.
All right, I'll go. Look, I mean, shoot, if we ever wanted to find – you want to know if Ohio can win a national championship and they live up to the height of the most talented roster ever together as they were titled to be going into this season, well, you're going to find out in the first half of this football game, and it's all going to depend on Will Howard. All right, their talent has nothing that it isn't. Still absolutely elite thus far through the season, but they haven't played anybody. And they certainly haven't played anybody on the road. Obviously, this is their first test. Like you said, Brent, everybody gets a mulligan. But if we're talking about national championship aspirations, you at least got to make it it's got to be a 4-quarter fight all the way through at the very least to prove like that. If you want to go back to Bama and Georgia, you know, the caliber of game that is will almost tell me more than necessarily winner or loser. That said, I'm still taking Ohio State, although I'm not quite yet a believer in Will Howard. All he's got to do is, he's again, one game to prove it to me that he can be the guy. He's okay. He's good enough to what he's going to do. He's a game manager-ish, which, again, is not a bad thing. I don't know if he's going to win them the football game great on the ground, but it's enough to take them over the Ducks this weekend, even if it's on the road.
All right, Ohio State for Hamby. Austin, what do you like?
I think Oregon's kind of been a tale of two teams. To start the year off, they've been very, they were stagnant. They didn't really show like they could compete at the high level. They play Oregon State, a big rival, blow the doors off. Dylan Gabriel has a little more confidence now. They played Michigan State and probably should have curb stomped them as well. It was closer than I think, in the second half, but still impressive. I think they found something now in Oregon in terms of how this offense is going to roll. I think Ohio State has the offense as well. So when you have two teams that I feel like could be a shootout, I'm going to go more towards that home team as the underdog. So he'll go ahead and give me Oregon.
You know what? I don't mind that. It's very interesting about Ohio State, in my opinion. And again, we kind of do it on the periphery. We talk about our local teams, but the national landscape in the first half of the year, are we paying enough attention to? And maybe that's me. I just feel like they're under the radar. I feel like Ohio State everybody talked about them. They placed them at the top of the Big Ten. They placed them in the top 3 in the country to start the year because that's what they do with Ohio State. You knew they'd have the roster, the 5 stars. People talk about Will Howard, everything else. Dave's done a good job there. Of course, he's always got them in the mix outside of beating Michigan the last couple of years. But I just feel like they're under the radar to me. maybe it's just me not paying attention. But I also like what you said. And the thing I like about Oregon in this game is I think it means more to them. I think this game matters more to them. Ohio State's not going to have trouble with Michigan this year. I think Ohio State's going to beat Michigan. Like, this isn't going to be one of those deals where, like, oof, they can't use their mulligan here. It's a great test for Ohio State. I think it'd be a good football game, but why not? Let's go and take the points at home with Oregon and see if we can get a Ducks victory here in our college football picks. All right, we've got other picks. More to go. Let's go a little faster than that, probably, right? Ole Miss, LSU, 3.5-point favorite at LSU for Ole Miss. That's what Lane Kiffin's been able to build in Baton Rouge. 3.5-point favorite for the Rebels. Austin, what do you think?
Is this going to be like one of those primetime games, right? It's going to be a night game at Baton Rouge.
Do you know what time that is, Hamby? I would assume it would be. It would almost have to be, right?
Yeah, I would assume so.
I'm not sure.
Well, regardless of what time the game is being played, go ahead and call me Garth Brooks. Go ahead and call him Baton Rouge. Because, listen, I love the Lane train. I love Ole Miss. But I think playing at Baton Rouge the way it went last year, I think there's some bad blood here with LSU a little bit, and I'm taking the Tigers as underdogs, by the way, as well.
Hamby, you like the Tigers or you like the Rebels? The Rebels, they got to be careful now. They can't have they already used a mulligan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I'm taking Ole Miss to bounce back. I don't think one game is enough against Kentucky, who is a great defense, is enough to kind of scrap them off the book as a playoff contender. I'm still buying in, especially off of the performance that they put forth last week against South Carolina, 27-3 victory against a team that can give teams trouble. I love LSU's offense, but I don't think LSU's defense can stop Ole Miss enough times. Give me Ole Miss in a close one.
I'll come with you, Hamby, on this one. I'm going to take Ole Miss as well, for exactly the reason I said it. We'll see if Austin has bragging rights over us.
Well, no, because this happens every single week. I get vetoed, and then my prediction comes true. So LSU is going to win by 40. Can't wait.
I already hurt Hamby's feelings once today with his stretchy video. I didn't want to do it again and take his side. Penn State
LSU by 40. Here we go.
Penn State, USC. This is a fun game now. Penn State at USC and favored by 3.5.
Yeah.
Hamby, 3.5? Like, that's a big line. I'm not a big fan of USC. I kind of like you watching USC lose more than any team in the country because Lincoln Riley drives me nuts. But anyway.
Brent, you have a personal vendetta against Lincoln Riley. It's unreal.
I do. He's not good enough for a guy that's demands like multiple jets and multiple homes and all that stuff in his contract, in my opinion. He's what's wrong with he's like my poster child for what's wrong with college football. But anyway, and I don't care about USC either way. I do think Franklin's a good coach. The question is, can he win games like this, right? Austin, that's been the question with James Franklin and Penn State. And they're going to have more of these kind of games, obviously, with Ohio States and Michigans and everybody else. But I think they can win this game. I just don't know if I like that 3.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat here. Because it has been the James Franklin MO where they can't win the big one. Now, I am kind of with you where do I buy into Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans at home? I'm going to lean more towards I think this could be the game, Brent. I think this is the game that Penn State finally puts themselves on the map as a team that needs to be taken seriously. And I think they understand that as well. So, I feel like if the physical running team of Michigan can go out and beat, USC, I feel like Penn State can accomplish the same thing in even a more devastating fashion, being a little more dynamic on offense. So go ahead and give me Penn State.
Yeah, Hamby, how about that? I didn't think he was going there. I thought he was going to go with USC in the points and maybe a defensive battle. But I don't mind going with Penn State here just because Lincoln Riley lose. I'm all for it. So forget about what Hamby has to say. Let's just put it in the books right now.
I'm cool with it too.
You like
I don't,
it or not, though? Just so you
I
can
do. USC is not physical enough up front. It bit him in the head in the rear last week, and it will continue to hit him in the rear as long as Lincoln Riley is there because he doesn't seem to find the importance of recruiting big guys in his own state. There's not many California doesn't breed a lot of big guys in the trenches, and when they do, they go to SEC schools anyway. Lincoln Riley hasn't found a way to counteract that, and until he proves otherwise, they're going to get beat by teams that are beefy up front. Penn State is, so give me Penn State.
All right, let's go to the NFL. Lions 2.5 over the Cowboys. This is a rematch of that game. Remember, there was some controversy in that game last year, so it's kind of a nice setup for the NFL storylines. I kind of like the Lions. Doesn't it feel like a Dan Campbell, this Lions team, because it has those storylines? Austin will come back and win this game in Dallas this time.
It does feel like that. I hate picking against it. Listen, I think I was the one that kind of swayed everybody to pick the Steelers over the Cowboys, which kind of backfired. Last-second touchdown cost us that one. You know, my heart tells me the Lions, Brent. The NFL script tells me the Cowboys. So I'm going to go with my heart more than the NFL script, and I'll take the Lions as well.
All right, Hamby, what do you think? You think the Lions get them? Or, I mean, Cowboys are just a hard team to figure out.
They are, but at the same time, like the Lions are, I mean, at the end of the day in the NFL, the Lions, as good as I think they, and everybody thinks they are, they're not a perfect team. You're gonna lose games on the road, and I just think this one is probably one of those. And a 2.5 point spread, if you can give me Cowboys plus 2.5, I think I'm gonna have to take that. Because you can't win every road game against a good football team. The Cowboys are great, but they're good enough. So I'll take the Cowboys in this one.
It's kind of weird. The Cowboys haven't been as good at home this year. They were awesome last year outside of the playoff game at home, but they haven't been as good. I'm gonna go back to what I said at the top. I don't trust the Cowboys right now, even though I think they're better than they perform sometimes. And so I'll take the Lions. Sorry, Hamby, we're going against you. Bucs and Saints. I don't really think this one's that hard given the quarterback situation, but I'll let you go first, Hamby. 3.5 points can be a lot in the NFL, quite frankly, especially on the road. NFC South, usually tight games, but keep in mind, Derek Carr is out of this game and Spencer Rattler is going to start.
Yeah, I think this is one where you want to still side at first glance, at least for me. I still wanted to side with the Saints because they're home and because mostly nothing that the Saints do offensively that's made them extremely explosive so far has 100% revolved around Derek Carr. It's revolved around getting playmakers like Kamar and Shaheed the ball in space kind of close to the line of scrimmage or behind it just through the running game. That's something you believe Rattler can replicate. But I think he'll make a turnover. It's his first start. There's got to be something in there. And so I'll take the Bucs in this one. It's probably going to be too much. I wouldn't count on him to be able to come back in this game if they happen to go down. So I'll take the Bucs with the points, 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised on the spread. Like Vegas knows something that we don't. And is that going to be Taysom Hill possibly? They're going to use him in some kind of fashion. We get a Taysom Hill 3-touchdown game. But I have to go with what I know. And I know that that Spencer Rattler is a rookie quarterback getting his first start. Like, how well could it possibly go for him, regardless if he played in an offensive-friendly, quarterback, environment? I'm taking Baker Mayfield. I'm taking Tampa Bay. Yeah, maybe Mike Evans gets shut down. That's fine. I still think they have enough pieces to win this game. So go ahead and give me Tampa.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you guys too. I'm taking the Bucs all day in this one, just given the situation. Hey, interesting too, just to note, remember New Orleans started really hot on offense. That offense has really cooled off. I mean, those first 2 weeks were so good. Now Jaden Daniels and Washington have carried that mantle of that offense that looks so good, and they're doing it even for a longer amount of time. But started to think about, like, Clint Kubiak, is he going to be really hot name in the coaching search? Now it's kind of died down in that respect, maybe for a Jets job or somebody else down the road. All right, Chicago and the Jags. I'm somewhat surprised that the Jags are underdogs in this game. It was a 2.5 point line. Especially being on a neutral field, essentially, here in London. It slid to a 1.5 point line. And, if you watch the lines go with the Jags, Vegas likes the Jags almost every week. It doesn't mean they're a favorite, but when the line will start, like even against like Houston, I think it started at 5.5 or something, and it started to slide back down. But there's been more money, it seems like, this year on the Jags to cover, and they are playing a lot of close games. So that's interesting. It's a tough pick, man. I think Austin, there's something inside me that says like I feel like Chicago's going to win this game. Oddly enough, but then I'm like, no, they're not, Brent. I mean, look at everything you just said. I mean, everything's bubbling. They like it here. They feel good here. They're probably the Jags are a better team, I think, front to back than the Chicago Bears. And I just don't know if that Indy game was an outlier or not. I can't be convinced because of it.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, you kind of broke out a little bit. So you're taking the Bears, or you're taking the Jags here?
I'm waiting to see, and I'm going to be the tiebreaker.
All right, Hamby, go ahead. What do you got to say then?
Look, hey, all right. If this was if the line was Jags favored by 3.5, I'd take them. I have a lot of confidence in Jacksonville going into this football game. And it's not just because I'm not yet a believer in Caleb Williams. I'm not an anti-Caleb Williams guy, but there are just so many factors when you go over to London. He's a rookie already, and going over there, still trying to find out his offense. There's a lot of things that go with that. I have enough confidence that the Jags will be able to handle their receivers on the back end enough, and if they're off enough to where the offense will have plenty of opportunities to win this football game. It'll come down to the Jags offense. If anything of what we saw, everything is trending in the right direction. One game is one game. But even then, the offensive line playing a lot better for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the last couple of weeks. The running game, even before just last game, in the last couple of weeks, they're playing better. And we see a couple of guys back or just a little bit more healthy. Devin Lloyd is more healthy this week than he was last week. Maybe that's just the smallest of minute details, but it could matter. The stuff is trending in the right direction. I have a lot of confidence. I'm taking the Jags by touchdown.
Okay. I mean, does that something to do with you picking the Jags to go to the Super Bowl, Hamby? I'm just saying.
No, that I have tried to absolutely just rid my brain and throw that in the trash can weeks ago.
Yeah, people don't forget. So listen, I was gonna take the Jags as well, but honestly, this is a coin flip for me, and I want to make this game a little more interesting. So I'm gonna lean with the Bears here. But like, here's what I think. I think, yeah, you have a rookie quarterback going to the UK for the first time, but you have a rookie quarterback now with confidence, and it's hard for me to believe that you look at this Jaguars secondary right now and say, can they stymie his confidence? Can they? And this is going to be more on Josh Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker. Maybe they can. But I just think with the electric players like DJ Moore, I think Odunze is going to be out there as well, obviously. And Keenan Allen. Do we know Keenan Allen, Brent? Is he going?
Keenan Allen he should go. Yeah, he's going to go.
So he's going as well. Man, I mean, that's, this is a lot more impressive to me than the Colts wide receivers are. And it's spearheaded by the electric play ability of DJ Moore. DeAndre Swift's found a little bit in the run game now as well. Like I said, I mean, I was leaning towards the Jaguars here. I'm just trying to find ways to say why the Bears can win because I want to hear what Brent Martineau's got to say. So go and give me the Bears just for the sake of this exercise.
Yeah, I know you were hoping that Hamby took the Bears maybe in that game because the way that organization did you dirty, there's no way you're picking the Chicago like ever.
Who are you telling?
So I will say this now. And James Hartman just replied, just commented, and he's right, because I'm looking at the injury report that Chicago looks like they just put out here on this Friday. Brisker's out. Pickens is out. Smith is out. Stevenson did not practice today, is doubtful in the game, the good young corner for Chicago as well. So, that defense is taking a beating a little bit. And will they be as productive, as good? They've been terrific going all the way back to last November, as we documented earlier this week when we had Clay Harbor on the show. So I think what you guys presented some pretty good things there. And coming over to London is different. The thing that gets me, guys, that we're not factoring in, I think, enough of, the last two wins, that the Bears have had. They played against the Rams and the Panthers. And I know the Rams can be good, but they haven't been great this year so far. And that defense has given up some stuff too, right? And Carolina's just awful. So like Carolina's got a little bit of the Indy stuff for me, right? It's like, okay, well, it's just that one game. Does it mean something? I'm going to lean on the Jags here. Even though, again, I had this little gut feeling that this is going to be a lot all week. You've heard my tone all week. I think it's going to be a lot harder than people thought going into the season and everything else. But I like where the Jags are at right now. I like the fact that they're here. They're more comfortable, all those things. And I do come back to this. I think they're a better team. And they get Ingram back too, man. They're getting a weapon back. Like, that's a big deal. The Jaguars offense should be able to keep up with even some broken plays if it happens with Caleb Williams and those receivers of Chicago. And let's just say one last thing here. I think the trenches right now are a favorable spot for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And we haven't said that all the time in games and haven't had a chance to. But right now, I would say they're a favorable spot on offense. And also the combination of Trayvon coming off that big game and Josh Hines-Allen, who now is healthy out of concussion protocol, played last week, everything else, I think really gives the Jags an edge there. And they've been pretty good against the run overall. So I wouldn't expect a big deal from DeAndre Swift. One last thought as I take the Jags. I'm going to take the Jags here. You know who's getting a ton of attention? And I wonder how you feel about him, Austin. The guy that everybody talked about. They gave a lot of love to the secondary of Chicago this week, but they really are game planning around Montez Sweat. That's the guy they're concerned about the most is Montez Sweat. He's a heck of a player. I think at times can be a very underrated player. Remember, they traded for him, then gave him that monster deal, and he's helped turn this defense around. He's delivered with that defense and really carrying the load in the pass rush game.
So, yeah, it's a great point, man. It's probably a disservice to us that we haven't talked about Montez Sweat enough. If you recall how that whole thing went down, they traded for him late in the season when it seemed like their season was like already done. And people are wondering, like, okay, well, you got to rebuild this thing, tear it down. Why are you bringing a guy like Montez Sweat in, paying him all this money when, you know, you're at the bottom of the division? And it goes to show you just what a high caliber player can do for your team, number one, but number two, what an edge rusher can do as well. And yes, he is playing at a very high level. And obviously the Jaguars offensive line, you know, they've kind of shored some things up the past couple of weeks. They've kept Trevor upright. Well, you got to do your due diligence here, man, because Montez Sweat is an absolute animal. And by the way, Brent, let me just say the fact that you brought up in the trenches and, you know, running the football, I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you, Brent. Welcome to the dark side, man.
Yeah, I know I think it's a big part of this. You've got to be able to do it. I think they can do it. I'm really interested to see how they battle. This goes back to this week's conversation about Bigsby and ETN. Listen, ETN is your number one guy. He's still your top back to me. I love him. Huge fan of him. I think right now, though, that hot hand, it is hard to ignore the numbers in Jacksonville and on those analytics and just even the regular stats. 8 yards a carry for Bigsby. You got to get him involved. And you look at a defense of Chicago that's got to put some focus on that because they just haven't been good. And they can see what Jacksonville has and how this offensive line's playing. So it really plays into that. But don't sleep on the Jags defense. I don't know the numbers, but it really feels like the Jags defensively have done – I know they haven't done a good job in the pass game, but they've done a pretty good job in the run game. They've done such a good job in the run game that Indy, without Jonathan Taylor, said, we don't even give a damn about running. We're just going to throw it all over you. And that's what Flacco did. Like, I remember coming out in the first series of that game last week, and I'm like, shoot, Flacco's going to throw it 50 times. They're not even trying to run today. And you know, again, to the Jags' credit, after the lead touchdown and all the way to 5 minutes to go, they actually did a pretty good job. Like, they did a pretty good job on Flacco in that offense. And then they just had the collapse in the last 5 minutes where they gave up these 2 touchdowns. So take the opening drive in the last 5 minutes, everything in between was a hell of a lot better than it looked. But at the end of the day, it felt so bad because of what happened late in that game for Indianapolis to come back and tie it up in that situation. So, okay, we'll take the Jags there. We'll see what happens. Let's take a break right now because it looks like we're getting a little fuzzy in some of our connections. So it's a good time for a break anyway. Brent Austen Show, Action Sports Shacks, 24/7 network from London to Las Vegas.
In Northeast Florida, we love hanging out on the back patio, maybe grilling out lunch or dinner with the family, enjoying the good weather, or maybe enjoying the big game on the TV. Or maybe your favorite team in town, the Action Sports Shacks team. This is great, except for when it's really hot or the bugs start coming out. But what if you didn't have to worry about that? Titan Outdoor Solutions will make your outdoor area a comfortable spot any time of the day, any time of the year. This makes too much sense. Titan Outdoor Solutions can give your home an upgrade. Customized pergolas, awnings, controlled shade, even retractable screens. The solution to beating the heat and the bugs and getting more use out of your home is Titan Outdoor Solutions. And this can even help prevent storm damage at your home. Living in Florida and living in your home is already good. Now make it great. Quality products, custom work, locally owned and operated. Visit TitanShuttersAndScreens.com or call 904-484-7580.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From 1954 to 2024, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. That commitment includes a partnership with the Action Sports Jax 24/7 team as the presenting sponsor of all Armada men's and women's broadcasts this summer. Action Sports Jax and Alive Credit Union, a partnership that just makes sense when it comes to covering Northeast Florida. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of our first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants.
We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter.
Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579. Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years and also sit on the Baker's bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices or pitching. Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports from Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com. Hey, welcome back to the Brent Austen Show on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. The Everbank game plan we go to on Friday. We'll pay it off on Monday and see how we did on this Everbank game plan. You can also check it out on the TV side of things with Action Sports Jax, CBS 47, Fox 30 all weekend long, which includes countdown to kickoff at a special time at 8:30 in the morning. Live from Tottenham. Brent Martineau here and Austen Lane out in Las Vegas, Jason Hamby in Jacksonville, and I think we have him out there. Yeah, we do. Maybe. He's coming back in. Austin, you good out there? All right, you're good. It sounded like you had an intruder.
Oh no, I have my coach is here, so yeah, we're just gonna talk about the day. Sorry about that.
No, you're all right. I figured that's what had happened. we just had the Everbank game plan up, and it's kind of like I feel like we almost just did it, right? With the Jags have to run the football and everything else. There's a lot of different ways to win the game, and you could pick your spot, but we kind of think like they're going to have to lean on the run. So I got a better one for you here. Let's just do what's along those lines. What is going to be the balance of carries between Bigsby and ETN? Yeah. What's this going to look like? What's Press Taylor, Doug Peterson, how are they going to work that? Do you think they come out of the gates, first of all, with Travis Etienne? And again, he's nursing a shoulder. That's the reason why he wasn't in last week. That shoulder is bothering him. And so I don't think there's anything more to it. But is he going to start this game if healthy, or will Bigsby be the guy that gets the first dibs? And then how many carries will each get, again, if ETN is fully healthy and ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, that shoulder is kind of like a trump card in a way where, you can always lean back on that depending how this whole thing shakes out, right? Because if you had a 100% healthy Travis Etienne, Brent, like, I don't think this gets talked enough about in terms of like the locker room here. And what I want to say is this, like, Tank Bigsby has obviously earned his reps, okay? Because you see it on the field. This dude has made play after play. He's shown explosiveness, 2 touchdowns against the Colts. Like, he's earned his carries. And Travis Etienne, like, yeah, we go back to that Miami game, the fumble cost him the game and everything. Wasn't one play, but obviously it was a giant play. And, yeah, I think Tank has outplayed Travis so far. But Doug Peterson's alluded to this. He's still the guy. You'd have to be careful of how you handle this, though, because I don't even know like how the locker room would feel about it, right? Because the most important thing is that your offense is gelling, right? That it's scoring points. So regardless of what you put out there, if you're scoring points, fantastic. If you put out Travis Etienne, though, and all of a sudden maybe he's getting stopped behind the line of scrimmage, maybe it doesn't look right, maybe the offense is stagnant, I guarantee the conversations are going to be, well, why aren't they putting Tank in? So like, this is it's a balance where I feel like if this doesn't go well, the whole locker room could kind of have a play here. So to answer the question, I think you go a true 50-50 split. I think you go, the first drive, you go Travis Etienne. Second drive, or maybe it's like second and short, then you bring in Tank Bigsby. Like, we get so enthralled because Tank Bigsby is so quick and he's shown that he has game-breaking speed, but I still think of him like a Mark Ingram, like that kind of like that goal, line back and everything. So that's how I hope they use it, right? I hope they use it in terms of situation as opposed to, all right, let's get this guy's reps, let's get this guy his reps. So I'm more of the case of, all right, first drive, Travis. Maybe he needs a breather. Maybe the shoulder's bugging him. Second drive, then Tank. If it's third and short, fourth and short, Tank Bigsby. If you're, inside the 10-yard line of the red zone, Tank Bigsby. So, and then obviously if it's third and long, fast situation, probably go Travis Etienne, right? Because Tank Bigsby in terms of the passing game, not quite there yet. So I just think more of like the game circumstance, the game situation should dictate who the running back is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see. It's starting to remind us of Maurice Jones-Drew and Fred Taylor a little bit. And I got that on my timeline yesterday when we were talking about this topic. And I know we've talked about it a bunch this week, but it's a big topic. I mean, it's a delicate one. I think that's what you were basically saying, how you coach it, what do you lean on? Like, it's going to come with criticism almost regardless, unless it's just both guys eat. Right. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like, it's really hard to figure it out. You can't predict it, what it's going to look like. Right now, I just go off this. If I'm Press Taylor, Etienne's my guy, but I can't ignore the fact that Bigsby's got 8 yards a carry right now on 34 carries. We're not talking about 12 carries. We're talking about 34 carries. It's very significant. So I go back to looking back in 2006 and 7-ish when Maurice Jones-Drew came in the league and Fred was the guy. And really all the way to 2008, Maurice started 4 games out of 47 games in those 3 years. but he was still able to get 941 yards, 768, 824. They really used him. 5.7 yards attempt, 4.6, 4.2 yards attempt. His carries went up each and every year as they were managing that. So it is doable, is the point, right? Like, you can do it. And, but right now you got to figure it out. Like, I don't think it's a 1-game deal either. I think it was 13. I think the snaps were really close last week. Of course, the shoulder played a role in that probably for ETN, but I just think it's got to be like one of those things you feel out. And it's almost like we have to take a 3-game sample and say, okay, now what does it look like? Because the numbers are going to skew. And Press Taylor said this yesterday. He said the numbers are going to skew a little bit because we busted 2 runs. Other than that, it was a he called grimy run game, which reminded me a little bit of the Atlanta game here in London last year, where he just kept running. It wasn't sexy, kept running, but they opened some things up off that run with the pass game. Well, in the instance last week, they got a couple of big breakaway runs that really changed the look of the numbers. It just wasn't, hey, we're running it all over them in Indianapolis. They hope those numbers are a little bit more consistent, I think, tomorrow, Sunday, against the Chicago Bears. And on paper, it looks like they'll be able to do that, whoever is running the football. The other thing about this, Austin, outside of third downs, where Bigsby, I don't think they're fully comfortable with him in that situation, and they've got better guys with ETN and Dearness Johnson. I think the screen pass also showed you, hey, Bigsby can get involved in that too. I don't think that was a one-off thing. I think they're comfortable. But there were 6 catches by ETN. He can definitely be more involved in the pass game, which then comes back to, can they put them both on the field at some time? Remember a couple last year I forget what game it was, but ETN split out wide, catches the ball down the sideline. Like, you can do that with ETN. You can, I think, line him up all over the place. I wonder if they get creative, especially putting those guys on the field and show a wrinkle here or there with ETN coming out of the backfield, going in motion, lining up in the slot, lining up outside, and creating a little different look for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, something a little different, right? Because we talked about this in training camp. We saw some different looks. I mean, Brent, I was getting ready to go around town parading, leading the charge, being the Pied Piper of having a fullback in the backfield. And like, literally, how many times have we seen a fullback, lined up like an I formation this season for the Jaguars? Hasn't been a lot, but we saw a lot of it at practice. So they've been working on it, and I'm not spoiling anything. Everybody saw the pictures. Everyone's posted the videos. So yeah, you hope to see more looks, and whether you want to incorporate Tank Bigsby in the backfield as well as Travis Etienne, like, I'm all for it, right? Like, let's keep defenses guessing now. You've had some confidence on offense against the Colts. Let's keep that momentum rolling. It's going to be very telling what this rep share is going to be like, because I fear, and I don't think this is going to be the circumstance, but like, I think it alludes talking about a little bit. Doug Peterson has made it perfectly clear that, Travis Etienne is still the guy. And I agree. I think his resume would dictate that. But the last thing I want to see is Travis Etienne, with all due respect to him, get like 80 or 90% of the reps. And maybe he does run well, and that's fine. But like, whether it's the fans, whether it's myself, guys in that locker room, we're all a little enthralled right now with what Tank Bigsby can do. And we want to see more, right? And especially for not only this season, but for future reference as well, we want to see more. We want to see if this is going to be the guy for years and years to come. So I just hope we get more opportunities to see if he can truly be the guy, and he doesn't get pushed to the wayside because, Travis Etienne's the starting running back.
Yeah, I think I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I don't think
so either. I'm just
the curiosity here. I think what you can get yourself in trouble, and I think Press has been pretty good at this too over time. It doesn't have to work in the run game for him to keep running the ball. I think a lot of the stuff works off the run. As I mentioned last year in Atlanta, here in London, against Atlanta was an example of that, because I remember talking to him after that game, and he's like, yeah, we kept working the run, even though it didn't look great, but we really thought we got stuff off that in the pass game. And so that's just an example of it that sticks out in my mind. I think the danger zone here is the Jags get stymied in the run in the first quarter, because probably the Bears are trying to fix that right now, right? I mean, there's a lot of attention on that. They know that's their weak spot, so they're going to try to fix it and put more focus on it. And if they stop that, then are the Jags going to go to the pass game? And then all of a sudden you lose the amount of run plays that you have, and then you can't share the load. And we look up in the fourth quarter, and Tank Bigsby's got 5 carries, right? That's
Yeah,
the problem that's the hard part about this, is that you've really got to stick with the run. You've got to be able to run the ball somewhere over 20 times, probably close to 25 plus times, if you're going to be able to give both guys a reasonable chance to even find out who's having the good day. So I think that's tricky, man. It's way people think it's easy. It's only easy when it works for both guys. I think it's a very hard thing. And this one to me doesn't come down to who's calling plays or whatever. This is a game plan type thing, how well you're executing your game plan and being kind of having the guts to stick with the game plan, even at times in the game when it's not working. So I think there's a lot that goes into that one. Hey, by the way, we've been playing Smash Up Fantasy Sports. You can still get your lineup in week 3 of our Lightning League. We just had a winner in a separate league with Smash Up Fantasy Sports take home $700, a viewer and a listener. So congratulations to them for getting involved. We're going to start up another Lightning League next week, but you got to get your lineup set up and change. And it's kind of interesting in our Smash Up Fantasy Sports. I'm even thinking, okay, who do you play, Bigsby or ETN? Like I'm asking myself that, like who's going to get the touchdowns? Who's going to get the rock? Who's going to get it close to the goal line? Like I really don't know, but I could see both guys having a significant day, even though their carries probably won't be as high as some other backs around the league.
No, for sure. And it's what it comes down to is the touchdowns, right? Because whether you're playing fantasy football, you're playing Smash Up, like it's all about the TDs, Brent. And yeah, I mean, like the receptions are nice too, because you get a little bump for catches and everything, but it comes down to touchdowns. And I'm very curious to see it. And to me, it's going to be the telling thing in the red zone, right? It's what we talk about a little bit, because you have a versatile guy in Travis Etienne, who's obviously a very viable receiver. We've seen him, have some success in the red zone being a receiver. You wish when it was whatever, the 4th and short and they go empty, you wish Travis Etienne would have been back there maybe for Trevor a little bit to kind of take some of the distraction away. Yeah, I mean, listen, you know where I stand, Brent, right? And this is my bold prediction. I think at the end of the season, I think Tank Bigsby is going to have more rushing touchdowns than Etienne. So I think the goal line work is going to be with Tank Bigsby. But at the same time, when you talk about the receiving threat and you get a guy that can get a 30-yard, 40-yard touchdown receiving in Travis Etienne, well, that's some points as well. So you kind of have to pick your poison here of, do you want maybe more of the sure thing in terms of, we think Tank will probably get some of the goal line work, or do you want the big play explosivity with the Travis Etienne in the receiving game? Pick your poison.
It's pretty interesting. And both, there's a lot to like, in my opinion, with both backs right now. And I think that is feeding the team too. I think there's just it's growing, going back to this game, there's a growing confidence on the offense. How could there not be? Trevor coming off a terrific game where he just made just about every right play except for one on the interception. The offensive line with 2 consecutive games. We talk about Montez Sweat against Cam Robinson. What a nice matchup that is, the way Cam's played the last 2 games, by the way. And then I think you're just feeding Brian Thomas that everybody's like, let's go. And then you get Bigsby and ETN, let's go. Guys are playing hurt, playing tough. Ingram comes back, more confidence. I mean, my goodness, like there's really a lot. I'll go back to what I said at the start of the show. Just doesn't feel like a 1-4 football team with some of the little stories going on. It feels like it should add up to more like at least a 3-2 football team at the very worst right now. And hey, we kind of feel that way, right? We kind of feel like the Jags should be 3-2. They didn't make a couple of plays, or they probably would be 3-2, quite frankly. Luke asked, is there any possibility we re-sign ETN? And Austin and I talk about this a lot in the summer. I was a big advocate to why not even extend him another year. But what they did do is pick up his 5th-year option. And so this is year 4 for ETN. And then if you go travel it out a little further with the 5th-year option, they're going to get 2 more years out of him. And so I doubt they re-sign him, quite frankly, with the state of the running back position. And when you have a guy like maybe now Bigsby, who could be here, at the tail end of ETN's career, in Jacksonville, and then you go draft another guy. It's just kind of the nature of the position. So I would say I doubt it that they would re-sign ETN at this moment. Although if you go back, I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth, Austin. I think you and I agreed. ETN extending even just to create 1 more year on the tail end of 25, so you get 26 as well, wouldn't have been a bad idea in my opinion.
No, not at all. I mean, and now with the emergence of Tank Bigsby, it's like, it's sad. It's almost an afterthought, right? Because of whatever 3 or 2 big games now,
when I talk about bringing Travis Etienne back. But I will say this. I mean, we'll see what the market dictates of how much he's going to be making. But you always want to have more than one good back, in the backfield. I mean, having an offensive line to block is one thing, but you also need dependable guys to tote the pill as well. Brent, let me ask you this regarding Tank and ETN here. I feel like there's some running backs in the league that they need more carries to kind of get going a little bit. Like if you watch Derrick Henry this year, and I say this, and obviously he had, I think the first carry of the game against Dallas was like an 80-something yard touchdown. But the last game that they played, it took a while for him to get going. But eventually you keep beating him, he's going to break out for one, right? Like we've seen this story way too many times to know that Derrick Henry is just, regardless of age, regardless of how many carries, you keep giving him the ball, eventually something good's going to happen. Between Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, do you think there's a guy who almost depends on having more carries to have success, to gain confidence? Or are they kind of like on the same tier there?
That's a great call. I think, outside of like a Darren Sproles, I'm not really sure there are many backs that don't need a lot of carries to like feel good and get in a rhythm and lean on the defense. And really, maybe that's more about the offensive line than it is usually about the actual running back.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I think what you're saying, I get totally what you're saying. Here's the answer on the Tank Bigsby part, Austin. We don't know. We haven't seen enough. Like we have no idea what 18, 22, 24 carries do. With a Bigsby in the NFL. We just haven't seen that. ETN, I think ETN has done a good job on games where I'd have to go back and look this up, but it feels like he's done a good job on games where he's got 11 carries or 15 carries, or sometimes where he's touched it 26, 27 times in a game. And he's been able to handle all that. And I don't think everybody anticipated that when they drafted him in the first round. They thought more explosion and he wouldn't be able to handle that in the tackle. So, well, that's what we learned, right? And that's what we appreciate and respect out of ETN is he can. But I don't think either one has to, which is a blessing probably for Press Taylor and this Jags offense, that they can kind of play both guys. I would lean toward ETN needs more carries at this point to get in a rhythm because it doesn't feel like he's in one. And also because I've seen what he does when he does have 18, 20, 22, 26. I just haven't seen Bigsby in that mode in the NFL.
Yeah, and I almost agree with you here as well. So that leads me to believe, like, will they try to give Travis more carries just because – I mean, listen, it's not easy to come in off a bench or in a depth role, come in right away and try to produce. Like, I don't care what position it is, and we've seen Tank Bigsby where, okay, he's getting a couple of opportunities here. Oh, what's this? He's out the gate for whatever, 70-something yards. So – I do agree with you where I think in terms of needing the reps, needing to kind of find their groove a little bit, I think it's a lot more on Travis Etienne right now than it is on Tank Bigsby.
Luke, does ETN history with Trevor go all the way through college influence him resigning? I really don't think it does. I don't. There's nothing that I feel that would influence it at all. And Mark asked, what personnel package does the defense go with if ETN and Tank are on the field, Austin? I mean, what do you do? How do you defend if both guys are on the field?
Pray, I guess. No, I mean, obviously you have to go base here. See, and this is the thing. If they can get Tank Bigsby a little more confident in the receiving game, man, you have something here. Because, I mean, if I'm a coordinator right now, right, and I see two running backs in the backfield, and assuming – it would probably be more of a pro set than it would be like an I formation. So when I say pro, they're going to be on both sides of Trevor.
Yeah.
I'm putting my best coverage linebacker, obviously, on ETN. I'm putting, my mid, whatever coverage linebacker on Tank Bigsby. But like I said, if you can somehow get Tank Bigsby involved in the pass game, which he's shown to be capable of, yeah, you definitely have something there.
Who's coming off the field then? I mean, if you're adding that, I mean, you got – I'm trying to think like you just said, they're going to go – are they going to go under center in a look like that? Are they going to come out of the shotgun with both of them on each side? Like I just – here's why I asked the question, and I understand – I don't get into X's and O's too much because I understand it's deeper than that. There's always a why and everything else and a why not, quite frankly. But it's hard for me not to ask the why. It's like, shoot, man, why wouldn't you put them both out there? I just feel like that presents a lot of issues for a defense. Just your face alone when asked the question says it.
Let me ask you this, Brent, and this isn't a knock on Trevor Lawrence at all because I've seen top-tier offenses like the Ravens, top-tier offenses like the Kansas City Chiefs do this as well. We've seen Kansas City this year do it with Travis Kelce, and we've seen the Baltimore Ravens do this with Derrick Henry and then with Justice Hill. Is there some sort of way you could put like maybe a wildcat formation where you have Tank Bigsby, at the quarterback spot? You have Travis Etienne out there. Do you hand the ball off? Do you keep it? Do you lower your shoulder? Do you, let Travis Etienne get the corner? Like, I think there's a lot of possibilities that you can do. Now, once again, I think you have to work on that, right? And I'm sure Andy Reid in the offseason and the Ravens as such have worked on that. But there's another possible wrinkle one day you can maybe see.
I think, right now I would say I don't think you'd see anything like that because they're not in a good enough rhythm and they haven't executed well enough. I think if you start to catch fire, like the Andy Reid teams can do that because they feel good about running anything. I don't feel like the Jags are there, but if 3 weeks from now we're looking at a game and we're like, hey, the Jags scored 30 and this and they're looking good, maybe you do end up going that route. Hey, we got to get you out of here in a couple of minutes, but I want you to take us through Paint the Play. Brought to you by That One Painter First Coast. And you referenced it earlier. It's the 85-yard touchdown, I believe, that you, Marcel, helped us out with. And you're painting this play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Austen does this each and every week. And let's start showing you how this play unraveled. It seems very simplistic, Austen, but why did you want to paint this one?
See, it seems very simplistic, but this is another example right now of the Jaguars scheming Brian Thomas Jr. to get open and letting him use his wheels, letting him use his big play ability to go out there and get a touchdown.
All right. How did they do it?
Okay. So there we go. I was going to say, well, I can't really see anything right now. All right. And we're back. So listen, when we talk about a one receiver, Brent, we always think about, maybe you go trips on one side and then you leave that receiver in single coverage, a la Tyreek Hill, a la Justin Jefferson. They haven't quite done this yet. We have a 2x2 look here, and I can't even tell who the receiver next to Brian Thomas Jr. is, but it doesn't really matter. I think it's Gabe Davis.
Strange.
Brent, do you know who that is? Oh, Brent Strange. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So it's Brenton Strange. So you have right here, it's zone coverage in Gus Bradley's defense. You have Brenton Strange running essentially like a 6-yard dig route. You run 6 yards down the field, you come back, you look for the ball. Well, this was all schemed. Oh, perfect. Marcel Robinson coming through in the clutch with the John Madden circle and everything. But here we go, Brent. Because, listen, the eyes don't lie, right? So we have Brenton Strange here, little wide open. Seems like, okay, this guy's going to get the ball, going to move get a couple yards here, get a comfortable, I think it's second and down, or it will be second down after this play. But that's not the case. This is all a setup. This is all cannon fodder because we see both cornerbacks right now in the safety looking at Brenton Strange. No one's noticing the 4.37 wherever he ran in the combine of Brian Thomas Jr. getting ready to beat you deep. So this is an example here of let's have a play to get Brian Thomas Jr. open. This is how it starts. All right. Next slide, please. And this is how it finishes. Okay. Once again, chef's kiss to Marcel Robinson for the graphic. This was all a scheme. And once again, you understand that when you have a speedster like Brian Thomas Jr. and you have a corner or a safety bite for just a split second, that's everything. And this is a result right now of biting for a split second, and this is the end of it. And it's as simple as that. And this is how dynamic and how special of a player Brian Thomas Jr. can be. Where if you make one split second of, am I taking Brenton Strange? Do I stay on my guy? It's too late. He's 80-8 out the gate. So we have one more slide here.
I think that's it. That's probably
it. Yep. And then did this guy get cut actually too after this game? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm pretty sure he did.
He either got cut or got hurt. I can't remember.
He got waived, yeah.
Oh, he got waived? Okay.
Got waived. Well, and Brian Thomas Jr. waved goodbye to him on this play as well. So once again, this goes to show you that when you can scheme a guy to get open like this, good things are going to happen, Brent.
Yeah, listen, that's a great description there and Paint the Play, brought to you by That One Painter First Coast. Make sure you give them a buzz or look them up for all your painting needs all over Northeast Florida. What's interesting to me there against Gus's defense, and I think Trevor even said this, is we put the corner in a little bind. He had to make a choice, right? And he obviously made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
the other, and that's what happens in Gus's defense. There's a lot on the corners and safeties to pick a spot, and you've got to pick the right one. So remember when they used to get torched by tight ends, that was that same area where guys would pick the wrong go, and then the tight end would be open. So the other thing I have before I let you go real quick is that play worked, and I couldn't, in the middle of the game, I'm like, all right, are they going to come back to it again and test them again? Like, I don't know if they ever did, because obviously it didn't turn into an 85-yarder, but there is something about that. Like, and maybe that's just video game nonsense, but if you run a play and it works, it feels like, oh, I'm going to come back and do that one again in like the third or the fourth.
No, of course.
Are you a little surprised like they maybe didn't try this again because it was such an effective play? You knew you were getting this defense again. It would be up to the guy to once again make the decision.
Yeah, without a doubt. I am a little surprised that they didn't go back to it because it just, it worked so well the first time. Or even, maybe that they do read it, then you go to Brent Strange, right? That's kind of the beauty of the play where it gives you more than one option. So, yeah, I'm a little surprised, Brent, to tell you the truth, that they didn't go back to it. And also, I can't state this enough, and I didn't really give them their props during, those slides, but the offensive line, you got to block there too, right? Because that play takes a little longer to develop, and they did. Trevor was clean, and then result was a touchdown.
Yeah, he was clean all day. One other note about Brian Thomas Jr. I just saw something. He's like 9th in the league this year against zone defenses. The Chicago Bears will play zone defense. I also saw something 2 weeks ago. He was like number 1 in the league in some category against man defense and separation. I think he's been pretty darn good against no matter what defense right now. And see if the Jags can scheme him open against Chicago. All right, man, you got to go. Get preparations a week away from the big fight. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Sounds good, man. Talk to you guys later.
All right, Austen Lane in Las Vegas, hanging out with us. We appreciate him balancing all that he's balancing. He's got a big fight coming up next Saturday, so a week from tomorrow in Las Vegas. He's got some game planning to do. Next week, he'll be in and out of the show with medicals and training and final preps. And hey, we want his mind right for next Saturday and put on a good performance, much like we always talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're in London, Austin in Las Vegas, Jason Hamby in Jacksonville. Let's take a break, Hamby. We got to catch up on some breaks actually too, but more to come, including our best bet of the weekend and a little bit more on some college football and maybe some baseball talk, because the Yankees have advanced to the ALCS. The Mets are in the ALCS. Could we see a Subway Series here in 2024? Oof, that would be painful maybe to see that. The game plan presented by Everbank each and every Friday, and we'll tell you how it went on Monday. What is the carry load going to be for Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne Sunday against the Chicago Bears? We'll be right back on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network.
Nobody but Nimnicht. Our family has purchased 6 vehicles from Nimnicht Buick GMC. The #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville has lots of inventory to choose from with their best price guarantee. Who gives you top dollar for your trade? Nobody but Nimnicht. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierras or get rates as low as 1.9%.
You know, I'm a truck guy. GMC Sierra, my trim level is an SLT. This one's an Elevation. Pretty good looking color as well. So here at Nimnicht Buick GMC, you have a lot to pick from. My father-in-law, he drives this, an Enclave, so I like that GMC in the family. 2025 is coming around the corner, which means it's almost time to close out those 2024s this summer.
You can schedule a test drive at NimnichtBuickGMC.com. And while you're there, check your trade value and customize your payment options. Nimnicht is there for you, even on Sundays. So, who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? The answer's simple. Nobody but Nimnicht. Your friends in the car business since 1941. GMC, we are professional grade.
It's time for your Swoop Minute with UNF Athletics, who started this past weekend strong with wins on the hardwood and in the pool. The Ospreys volleyball team completed the reverse sweep on Stetson for their first win in ASUN play this season. The swimming team picked up their first win of the season in their first event, 132-130 over West Florida. Both the men's and women's tennis teams were in action this weekend as well. The men kicked off their season with 5 singles wins and a pair of doubles victories at the Mercer Gridiron Classic, and the women's team picked up 3 singles wins and a doubles victory at the Bedford Classic in Coral Gables. Both the men's and women's tennis teams will be back in action this upcoming weekend, as the men will head to Orlando and the women will head to Atlanta for the ITA Regionals. The swimming team is back in action as well, as they will once again face off with West Florida, as well as Florida Southern and FSU in the FSU Quad Meet. Remember, you can find schedules, results, tickets, and more at unfospreys.com.
I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
New to town or always been in town? Everyone is always looking for a good pizza place. Our place is Donato's Pizza. We love it and still do love it. When I tell my family I'm coming to Donato's, they say, wait a minute, you got to order some for us. So this is not all for me. Let me tell you what the Martineaus get when we put an order in. Well, pepperoni pizza, we usually get more than one of these. And then there's the works, a little bit of everything. And then this is the pizza that can be polarizing for some out there. I don't know why. Hawaiian pizza. Some love it, some don't. At Donato's, you're going to love it, especially with that cinnamon sprinkled on top. Try the pizza my family likes or try your favorite. Right now, you can use the code BRENT20 and get 20% off your order. Every viewer and listener is important to us. And at Donato's Pizza, every piece is important. From fresh ingredients to the dedicated team members and you, the valued customer. Donato's Pizza, where every piece comes together for a winning combination. Jax Beach and Mandarin locations. Donato's Pizza, every piece is important. It's a new logo, new branding. With Bold City Heating and Air, it's an old school approach. One of the few locally owned and operated air conditioning businesses left in Jacksonville. It's hot, Florida in the summer. You can't do much to avoid it, but you can keep cool with Bold City Heating and Air. It's every customer counts kind of service, from when these trucks have pulled up to my home over the last couple of years and when they pull into your driveway as well. From communication to pricing to the actual service, everyone at Bold City Heating and Air cares about you. You know who is coming to your house. You know they will be well trained and they will respect your home. Air conditioning convenience at boldcityac.com. Stay cool while it gets hot. Bold City Heating and Air can help. Don't get caught sweating all summer. boldcityac.com, and they have financing to help. New systems starting at $110 a month and $50 off any repairs. Stay safe, stay comfortable with Bold City Heating and Air at boldcityac.com. Homegrown in your hometown.
Building off a summer of terrific action at Southern Oaks Stadium, the Jacksonville Armada are looking forward to the future and the return of pro soccer in Northeast Florida. Season ticket reservations for MLS Next Pro are underway, and for just $100, you can lock in some great benefits when it comes to supporting the boys in blue. Those who make a reservation will have first selection options in the new Armada Stadium out east, near Jacksonville's downtown sporting complex, as well as access to supporter VIP events like stadium tours, open training sessions, and future meet and greets with players and coaches. You can make your season ticket reservations at jacksonvillearmada.com/ticket, and while you're there, read the very latest on the Armada men's and women's teams in action this summer. Show your commitment to the fleet with an MLS Next Pro season ticket reservation at jacksonvillearmada.com/ticket.
In Northeast Florida, we love hanging out on the back patio, maybe grilling out lunch or dinner with the family, enjoying the good weather, or maybe enjoying the big game on the TV. Or maybe your favorite team in town, the Action Sports Jags team. This is great, except for when it's really hot or the bugs start coming out. But what if you didn't have to worry about that? Titan Outdoor Solutions will make your outdoor area a comfortable spot any time of the day, any time of the year. This makes too much sense. Titan Outdoor Solutions can give your home an upgrade. Customized pergolas, awnings, controlled shade, even retractable screens. The solution to beating the heat and the bugs and getting more use out of your home is Titan Outdoor Solutions. And this can even help prevent storm damage at your home. Living in Florida and living in your home is already good. Now make it great. Quality products, custom work, locally owned and operated. Visit TitanShuttersAndScreens.com or call 904-484-7580.
The best stories sometimes come after the game. Join us for in-depth conversations with local coaches Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 p.m., including our latest guest on the program.
So I had a parent meeting year 2 and told the parents, look, I know there's 15 of us. There'll be more that will come. The younger ones will come up and they'll be fine. And, we'll win state championships. And when I tell you they laughed at me to the point of tears, I'm not exaggerating.
Catch up on the chats you missed by watching the After the Game playlist on our Action Sports Jacks YouTube page. When you think sports, you think Action Sports Jacks, the official station of the Jaguars, on location for every game. But the most experienced team in town doesn't stop there. From high school football to the big events in the area, Action Sports Jacks is always on. Now, we take that to a new level. Action Sports Jacks 24/7 is around-the-clock coverage of the teams you love and the moments you can't miss. The best local sports in Jacksonville on Action Sports Jacks 24/7.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Strings, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield. All right, welcome back, everybody, to London, England. Brent Martineau, Brent Austen Show. Austin had to get running to train for his fight out in Las Vegas. Still pretty wild doing a show from London to Las Vegas. Thanks, everybody, for hanging in with us here on this Friday as we really just arrived here in London a few hours ago, but everything's been smooth. Beautiful day in London as the sun starts to set here. It's 5:30. I know it's just early on around lunchtime. Back home in Jacksonville, Jason Hamby back there as well. Good to have him back in the fold. Let's see. Mr. Hugo says, I don't have a dog left in the fight. Hate both New York teams, but I'm open for the Subway Series because it's the most entertaining storyline. Yeah, it would be an entertaining storyline. I got to be honest with you. I'm at odds, and I know Hamby's a baseball guy here, and he's a Braves guy, so I don't know how he feels about the Mets, but it was either the Mets or the Phillies that was going to happen. I'm a Red Sox guy, so I'm not a Yankees guy at all. And I can't sit here and tell you that I'm rooting for the Yankees, like I said, at all. But I will say, like, we know Travis Chapman really well, the first base coach. And so I kind of am rooting for him. Of course I'm rooting for him. Like, he's a great dude. He's a local guy. And he's a buddy. So it's like it's hard to describe it. It's like I think I'm okay. Like I'm okay with the Yankees keep going for him, but that's a hard thing to say out loud.
I don't know if I really mean it or not, because you got to understand, like, my fandom is really has really shifted. Like, I'm not a fan anymore of most anything. I want the Jags to win so much. For somebody asked me this, like, if you're a fan of the Jags, like, well, I know so many people inside that building that I know work their tail off. Forget about the football side. They already do too. But I mean, on the other side of the building, man, it would be so nice for them. But really, it's for everybody that listens to our shows and watches our shows in Jacksonville. And my kid and my wife, they're season ticket holders. My kids love the Jags, So there's a lot of reasons why I want the Jags to win. Plus, it'd be a hell of a lot of fun, right? The more that happens. But outside of that, I'm not a fan, like, diehard of anything anymore. Like, I was a Red Sox fan, and I mean, I still am a Red Sox fan, but I just don't watch every night. So I don't pretend to be the guy that is, like, on board all the time. And I was, and then I do think getting in the business and also the Red Sox winning a World Series kind of lost that romanticism a little bit for me once they won the World Series, and now they've won 4 in the last 20 years. So I've told everybody, Hamby, that I've shifted from Red Sox fan to I just want the Yankees to not win. Like, so I almost dislike the Yankees more than I like the Red Sox, if that makes any kind of sense. But I'm a weird sports fan. My kid can't understand it. I'm not like Hick going crazy at the Mets game as he watches those 2 games, which is really cool. Like, it's all good stuff. I just can't get there in my fandom. And the only way I can even get my blood boiling is if the Red Sox and Yankees play in the postseason, quite frankly. Like, that would get it going again a little bit. But that just has happened so rarely. And the last couple of times it's happened, the Red Sox have been on the better end of it, quite frankly.
Yeah, and shoot, man, I love seeing that video that he posted, him celebrating. And that's the same way that I was when we won. I've told the story of how I was there, and that's something that I really hope that I never lose, especially for the Braves. It's something that I'm weary that I've already lost just a little bit, mostly just because of a time aspect. I literally was the guy who would be dialed in for about 150 regular season games out of the 162, and that is a far cry from now. But it's I'll take any team. Look, I just want game 7s at this point. That's what I root for. As soon as the Braves are out, I root for game 7s, and I think baseball, Major League Baseball wants New York in there, of course, and I don't blame them. Nobody does, but the baseball fans who watch the World Series, at the end of the day, they don't need the Yankees in there to watch. And they're going to watch regardless. Baseball fans will watch the World Series no matter who's in it. I don't think, and I'm sure the ratings would beg to differ on a lot of the fringe viewers who would tune in if it was the Yankees. But I consider myself almost a baseball purist at this point, or traditionalist. You play the game for your fans and your diehard fans. No diehard fan is not watching because it's the Tigers or it's the Indians. Everyone will be watching every out, regardless of who's in it. It's because it's the last series of the year in the World Series. So,
yeah, that's true. But you and I are not we're in the minority, I think, in terms of just wanting to watch baseball. When I say the minority, there's still a lot of us. But it's still not it's not what those kind of sports need for their biggest games. Like the Super Bowl, so many people don't care about who wins or loses, right? But you're getting an influx of people because of the event. I think it definitely is totally different if you get New York and New York. Honestly, I think it's even bigger. I'm probably wrong about this, but I think it might be even bigger if you get like the Dodgers in New York in this World Series 100%. Because Ohtani now is in it.
Hey,
now,
I don't know.
I mean, the New York is that. But
real quick,
so anyway,
have
I
you
think
seen the graphic? Sorry, have you seen the graphic where they show Shohei Ohtani up in 3 hitters, Shohei Ohtani up in 2 hitters? It's right above. So the box score will be in the bottom right, and a graphic will pop up with Shohei Ohtani's face, and it says Ohtani up in 2 hitters, like whoever the 8th hole hitter is. Or 2 nights ago, I believe it was Chris Taylor, or he might have been hitting 9th or whatever the case may be. But it'll literally, like, he was on with 2 guys on, 2 outs, and here comes the graphic. Ohtani up in 2 hitters. I'm just like, holy cow. Like, they know exactly what they're trying to keep fans with, and they're not making any bones about it. Like, they would never imagine doing that for anybody else, but they want everybody to be tuned in when he's hitting.
That says a lot. That's a needle turner, right? And I think that series is on Fox, so that FS1 must be doing that. And Amby, you're too young to know this or remember this, but when Bonds was going at the home run record, right? Or it was even Sosa McGuire back in the day. Like, there was a lot of, like, ESPN would do that on the crawl. They'd take you into live at bats, right? When that chase was going on down the stretch. And they would cut in, So, again, Ohtani's not doing anything historic, at least at the moment. He's just somebody to watch. So it would make some sense. In fact, there's nothing really like it in other sports where you would tease ahead to a guy coming up. Like it's not like, hey, LeBron's coming off the bench in a couple of minutes. Like, you're not going to say that ever. And football doesn't have that either. So it's pretty unique that you can do that in the sport of baseball. I did not see that. It's a good move, probably by Fox as well. And he's entertainment right now. And by the way, that's a team full of entertainers, like Mookie Betts, who's just extraordinary. And still Ohtani's that much bigger. But yeah, who do you let me just spin this one more time with the baseball stuff. Who do you root against the most then as a Braves fan? Like, who is your team that you don't like in the NL East? The Phillies or Mets? I would assume one of the two, right?
Yeah, I mean, I root, well, now after the last couple of years, it's the Phillies. Previously, I would root anything against the Dodgers, to be honest with you, just because of how many times they've knocked us out, even going back to like 20, I think it was 12, and then going back to the Juan Uribe missing 2 bunt attempts and then slapping a home run over in an 0-2 count to give them the lead many, many years ago in the NLDS. Just like they've knocked us out so many times that it was the Dodgers. Now it's the Phillies because they knocked us out the last 2 years. So I am rooting for the Mets pretty much the whole way. I'm rooting for the Mets the rest of the way, which is about the craziest thing that I could have imagined, because growing up, they were always the team. But I'm rocking with the story. I'm not rocking with Jesse Winker, but I'm rocking with the rest of them. And I'll take OMG all the way through.
It is pretty wild how that stuff catches on. The OMG stuff is big. Like, I wasn't even paying attention to it when it was happening even earlier in the year. And they're the best team. I thought the Padres were the best team in baseball in the second half, and maybe they are. I think it was
Padres' best team
over the last like 105 games.
It was Padres' best team since All-Star break. Mets' best team since middle June.
Okay.
Or I might have that backwards.
By the way,
I think that's it.
No, I think you had it right. No, you're right. You're right. It's a longer stretch of time for the Mets. Here's the deal. I think that I want the Padres to win because I think that would be a fun series. I think the Padres are fun. Right now, the Mets are fun. It's very unusual that you can find a team in a big market like New York be somewhat of this like darling of a team. Right. And that's what they are right now. They're a darling. I mean, when in sports is a big market team a darling? The Mets are that. The Mets are that because they've lost enough where you can kind of feel for them. Right. They've struggled enough. They struggled earlier this year. They've got an energy to them. And you kind of know, if you're a baseball fan, they're not the best team on paper. They just really aren't. I don't even know where they would fall. They're not better than the Phillies, quite frankly, on paper. They just beat them. And that's what sports is all about. So, I do wonder, though, how bad Major League Baseball wants Ohtani to be in the World Series. Like, to the point of, are we going to see favorable calls in this Game 5 against the Padres? No. Like, you can't control it. I'm not a big believer you control it, but I mean, it would be really good for baseball if Ohtani is in the World Series. Like, there's nothing. Mets being in is great. New York, possibly great. Yankees in it, the ratings are going to be up because there's so many Yankees fans. But Ohtani is the guy that can elevate this to probably a place where the World Series hasn't been in quite some time. I don't know how far you'd have to go back to, but there's no doubt the ratings game hasn't been as strong lately in the last decade for Major League Baseball. Ohtani might actually bring that kind of wave of excitement and momentum and eyeballs to the Fall Classic here later October when you see it on Fox 30. So be interesting to see if it does. I wonder. I'm kind of curious if that happens. But to be honest with you, I don't really want to see the Dodgers in it. I like the Padres. I think they're fun, and I wouldn't mind the Mets either. I really just think that's a great NLCS. I don't feel as strong about the ALCS. I think the Yankees are going to go to the World Series because I think their home field advantage matters that much. And by the way, all of a sudden, the Florida State kid, Luke Weaver, is pitching his butt off out of the pen. Like, nobody would have seen that. That's just out of nowhere, right? Unless I haven't been following the Yankees the last couple of months. But they were having closer problems. And you can't win this day and age of baseball without a guy shutting it down on the back end or at some point in a high leverage situation. You just don't win without that guy. And right now, Luke Weaver, all of a sudden, kid who went to Florida State, is that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was a 6 ERA starter for 4 or 5 years in the National League with a bunch of teams, with Reds and Diamondbacks, and looked like a guy that you would want to almost, if your guys were playing in fantasy baseball, you want to make sure they were in, because honestly, he got teed off on a lot for years. He was just could never figure it out. He was almost seen as this failed experiment. Goes over to the Yankees. Now, he was with them last. I didn't know this. Got there last year and started carving out a middle bullpen extended reliever role, and now he finds himself in the closer role because they have so many issues, and he's been unbelievable. I want to ask you this really quick. Have you seen the Bob Costas stuff? Have you heard some of his calls? And if so, it's kind of this Al Michaels kind of same thing with the Chargers comeback and everything, where the gripe from fans is they're too ordinary of calls. They seem like regular season games, that there's not enough excitement. Do you think that NFL, MLB, they hear, or the networks, I guess, because it's not really the league's call, the networks hear that, but it's the voice, it's the decades of recognition that those guys have that makes them so eager to bring them back and give them these primetime spots? Or what do you, because that's what I keep going back to, is this Bob Costas has been calling for 50 years. The networks still think it's worth it, that there's so much there to keep giving it to them.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? I love Bob Costas. Not everybody does, even over the 20 years ago. But I love Bob Costas. I grew up on Bob Costas. Part of the reason I got in this business, honestly, was watching NFL Live with Bob Costas and Will McDonough and guys like that when I was a kid. I mean, I just loved it. So, and by the way, that was when they had like one pregame show on right before the NFL. And so it was really cool. But yeah, I mean, listen, he's definitely, I mean, these guys are getting old, you know. I mean, and I kind of rip Al Michaels sometimes. I don't mean to, because I have a lot of respect for those guys. But I also, like, what I don't get, especially I think Michaels is significantly older now than even Bob Costas is. I don't get why they hang on for so long. Like somebody like Al Michaels, certainly he can do it, but he's certainly not as good at it. And the guy's gotten paychecks for a long, long time. So there's a little bit of part of me that says, hey, give somebody else a chance, you know, like let somebody else do it. Now, you also earn the right to do it until they tell you not to do it anymore. I think this has a little bit with those voices, those guys, they're so big in the business and in the industry. I think they might have a little bit of like the Bobby Bowden late Florida State stuff, right? You're not going to kick him out of there. You're just going to let him go until he decides to get out of there. And when the time is right. I'll also say this. I don't know if as many people complain about it as we think. We see it on social media. Your group, younger group, doesn't have like a reverence for these guys at all. But if you're in your 60s and 50s and 40s watching ball, you actually have a reverence for these guys where you're not going to be as loudly critical of them.
Right.
So I think there's an element of that where it might be a little bit of a vocal minority. when it comes to the noise on these guys. But I also think it's easy and fair to say they just aren't as good as they used to be. They've lost it. It's not easy at their age probably to keep doing it. And it doesn't resonate with the younger audience, which we're all trying to get in every category of the business, is the younger people, especially baseball. You want younger people involved in it. So to have Bob Costas doing the games doesn't do that, because they want the Gus Johnson guy right now, right? They want those kind of voices. They want that kind of energy. And to me, I'm a little surprised that they're going here, but it must be a reverence thing. Costas is an unbelievable baseball guy, right? I mean, there was talk for 25 years of making him the commissioner of baseball. Like, would he want to be the commissioner of baseball? Like, he's a great baseball man. But I just don't think he's as good. Doesn't resonate with the younger crowd. And one more element of this, I think, Hamby, if you really want to get me going on the business, is I just don't know if there are enough good play-by-play guys for network. You know, it's what I tell kids all the time. If you're getting into our industry, is
I was calling for Matt Vasgersian.
Yeah, that's fine. But here's the thing: like,
He's one of my favorites.
He's good. But what they're asking probably is, and he is good, but is he so good that he's going to resonate and people are going to know who he is, or does Bob Costas people knowing who he is still way more than that?
And that's the question.
You know, there's like this balance of probably what the networks are saying is my guess. I don't know what goes into it. It's purely just guessing at this stage. But I do think we don't have enough superstar play-by-play guys. It's a hard job to be very good at. And that's across all sports. And I think that's why you see so many of these guys hang on for so long. I also think, and this isn't being critical, I think Mike Tirico's fantastic, but he does like everything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, hey, share the load a little bit, man. Like, I appreciate him because he's not afraid to work. But Herb Street's the same way, right? Herb Street's all over the place. Like, you can't find another guy. And the answer is, well, they really can't. It's hard to find those guys that are that good, that people are used to hearing. We don't like change in this business very much.
Right.
We like what our ears like to hear. And so I think all those things create this recipe for these guys to, one, if you're like the Tiricos and Herb Streets of the world, to do so much of it. And then if you're like the Al Michaels and the Bob Costas of it, to do it until the gas tank runs empty, you know? But it's a fascinating, I just went 10 minutes on it. So it's a fascinating conversation, in my opinion. I just don't know how the networks feel about it.
Am I allowed to play the single greatest Bob Costas 15-second clip of all time?
Sure.
Here we go.
Is on his way in. Strope is on his way out, pointing toward the heavens. We can only ask or wonder that he is asking some departed relative for forgiveness for this atrocious performance.
You can get away with it. You can get away with it.
Like, how is
so unusual to hear a play-by-play guy. Like, that's the other thing. These guys,
oh my
God, they've gotten more critical.
Yeah.
Right. They've gotten more critical as they get more comfortable and build up equity. That's usually the spot of an analyst. Like, if Smoltz was doing the game, he would be the guy that would say something like that, right? Because he had been in the role before. And then, of course, now, like, Al Michaels always references betting, and everybody references betting, which is also pretty interesting. They've been doing, Musburger and those guys been doing that for quite some time now. But now they can get away with doing it and be a little bit more blatant about it. Hey, one other thing about the baseball playoffs, since having fun with some baseball talk here on a Friday, did I see like 3 different bunts now in the last couple of days for teams that are winning and creating like insurance runs or runs? And by the way, bunts were fantastic. Like the safety squeeze bunts, 2 of them were, at least that I saw, were terrific. The Yankees even bunted the other day. I think the Dodgers bunted the other day. The Guardians did, which is a little bit more, I think,
Dodgers tried to.
Reasonable for them to. Dodgers. No, but wasn't it the Dodgers that had the
Chris
bunt
Taylor
down the first baseline? I'm pretty much. I thought he did. Was I watching the right game? Yeah, I think one. You might have seen that play. I didn't see that one, but a Dodgers guy successfully did it too, down the first baseline. So, yeah, I mean, See, this is what I've always said about bunting. Like everybody thinks I'm just like, hey, bunt all the time, bunt all the time. No, like part of the reason, like the Guardians won that game yesterday because they got a guy who hits a home run, and then the next at bat he's moving a runner across the plate and giving them an insurance run that they needed, and they won 5-4 to save their season, right?
Right.
So we wait too much in these instances where we don't get those runs. And it's kind of like what we talk about here in Jacksonville. Hey, sometimes you got to kick a field goal, right? Going for it's cool, but sometimes you got to kick a field goal. The bunt in baseball is the field goal in football right now. Everybody loves going for it in football, and everybody loves swinging for the downs. But I appreciate it in the postseason that they're at least saying, "Hey, we got to do this a little bit to be able to manufacture a run." And the fact that the Yankees did it was like, wow, that's incredible that the Yankees even did it.
Because it feels like giving up in a sense.
Right.
You know, like a field goal feels like you're giving up on your offense. A bunt feels like you're giving up on the guy in the box, and it feels like it's such a defensive move when in all reality, it can be an offensive move, and you got to get the guy home. And a lot of times, it's the best way to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, sometimes it's the easiest way to do it or the risk-free way to do it. Now, not everyone knows how to bunt, so you got to get the right guy up. Right. And there's always risk involved, even in the kicker, right? Like, because that's the worst. Let's just take Doug not going for it on 4th and 2 last week against Indianapolis, which like I criticized a lot. I just didn't get it in the time frame. And I'm a big go for it guy. Like, I'm cool with it. But I think this is why Doug, first of all, he has confidence in his offense and his play calling, even so far this year to that point. And he's trying to breed confidence into it. But he's also thinking, all right, if we kick a field goal here, it's like 48 yards, whatever it is, and we don't get it, I'm going to be really pissed off, to your point, right? Like, I'm like, I could have gone for it. I wanted to go for it. Now I'm kicking the field goal, but I'm relying on the field goal kicker. And if he misses, I'm going to be really pissed. So I think I get the whole gymnastics part of it. There's just been, I'm 85% of the time, I would say I'm on board with Doug going for it. I think there have just been some times over the last few years of his tenure, I'm like, that ain't it. That's not the time to do it. And of course, that's our job, kind of the second guess. And we're pretty good at that, second guessing along the way. Hey, one thing I didn't bring out we were talking earlier in the show, Brent Martineau from London here, Jason Hamby back in Jacksonville. Austen Lane had to go get ready for his fight next Saturday night, and putting a bow on this show here on a Friday. We got all coverage all weekend long, of course, from London back home to Jacksonville, and all our shows are back and running by the weekend, even with Hurricane Milton. But one thing I didn't bring up that I thought about on the plane ride actually last night, and we were talking about, could the Jags get going, right? Can they find themselves back in the season? I don't know what it means, and I don't know what it says to you, Hamby, but Doug has been, as a Jaguars head coach, he has been so streaky, which is pretty wild. 3-7 to start.
Mm-hmm.
Then they win. I did the math this morning. They win 15 out of the next 19 games. So they 3-7, they go 15-4. Then they just finished a stretch where they lost 9 out of 10. 3-7, 15-4, 1-9.
1-9.
And so I guess what I'm asking, would you be surprised if this team now goes on a run? Like especially if they get these two here and go on a streak again where, I mean, maybe it's I don't know. Let's take the next 10 games. They go 8-2. Mm-hmm. Like, it just wouldn't surprise me if they do that. It's a little bit of the MO of Doug for whatever reason. I think it might be just a quirky thing, but at least there's a little bit of a trend to say, hey, when it gets going, it gets going. And when it doesn't, it really doesn't.
Yeah, this is one where it's so hard for me to put my finger on it, because how much can a streak really be controlled by the coach, and how streaky can a coach even be as far as the actual of his, because we all know that the game comes down to game plan and execution and a million different things, and it's so hard to, like I said, put your finger on how that's a possibility of how a coach could be this streaky. Would it surprise me? It would surprise me just because I know who's on the schedule when we come back home from London. If you would have asked me at the end of this year, the last 5 games, if those 5 games and those opponents were the 5 opponents that we had when we come back from London, no, it really wouldn't surprise me at all if we went 6-1 into these next 7. When you come home, you got the Packers, the Lions, the Vikings, and the Eagles. That really just kind of cuts right through any confidence that a streak could survive that stretch. But even if it's, look, you get these 2 and then you get the first one against the Packers, like, I'm signing up for that, obviously, at 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, that's why I want to give them a couple of in there. Like, if they were to win these next couple, I think you could make a case they'll win X amount of games, but they'll probably lose 2. They're not going to just win like 7 in a row, I don't think, or go like 6-1 in a stretch. That's a little tricky stretch to plan on doing that, but I'm not sure. Also, you can put it by them. The bottom line is the Jags. A lot of people want to say they went 15-5 in that one stretch because they count the last that one that made them 3-7 was a loss to Kansas City. So in that 15-5 stretch, they lost 3 times to Kansas City.
Right.
So only 2 other teams beat them.
Yeah.
And I think it was the Lions and somebody else. I think it was in that stretch. So it's just a pretty crazy trend. And now you kind of hoping it is a trend because then it could pull them out of it if that is for whatever reason here in Jacksonville. So we will see, of course, on Sunday. We'll have all the coverage of that one. I want to tell you about my friends at Nimnick Buick GMC. Now that you're settled from the storm, maybe you're looking for a new vehicle this weekend, head out to Nimnick Buick GMC on Phillips Highway. You can go nimnickbuickgmc.com and shop anytime as well. Nobody but Nimnick. There are trucks, then there's the truck, the one I have, GMC Sierra. Absolutely love it. They've got them bigger and better than ever before, and also with a heck of a deal, too. Save up to $10,000 off select new GMC Sierra 1500s or enjoy rates as low as 0.0%. Nobody but Nimnick GMC. We are professional grade. A couple other things to tell you about here before we say goodbye. Don't forget, we've been mentioning our new partnership with Jax Pal, the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. You can check all they do and how you can help at jaxpal.org. And tomorrow, the Out East mural reveal takes place. As far as we know, it's still on at 10 a.m. at Franklin Street in Jacksonville. The Out East mural reveal. If you can be a part of it, looks like a good day for the kids with bounce houses, face painting, vendors, mental health awareness, and other things at the Out East mural reveal coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. in Jacksonville on Franklin Street. And do you have a best bet of the weekend? This is usually the game that you think, well, there's no doubt. It's a lock. Help me out with it this week. Give me a lock from the NFL, Hamby. What do you got?
Buccaneers, baby.
What's that?
Buccaneers over the Saints.
Okay, Bucs. Okay, I like it. Yeah, 3.5-point favorite. Bucs over the Saints. That will do it. That's good. Best bet St. Augustine, by the way, the place to be. They're giving away money tonight and tomorrow, $300 every 15 minutes. Best bet St. Augustine. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll have full coverage on CBS 47 and Fox 30